Before the video begins, I'd like to address a personal matter. Please join my Discord, where I regularly share smaller updates throughout the day about my new videos. Thank you, and now enjoy the video. This video falls under the Fair Use Law. The following is a fan summary, for entertainment purpose, only, which is not intended to replace the original series. We do not own the anime, manhwa, or any of the artworks, all rights reserved to their respective owners. Please support the official release of this series. This is for people's enjoyment only. This video is not meant to infringe any of the copyrights. Dragons enveloped in yellow light adorned the sky and descended. In the background, the last fortress of humanity, Dusk City, could be seen. Dragons landed on the ground like flies. Lightning shot out from a cloud cover, and a large red dragon flew directly towards the fortress. A wizard recognized the dragon and said it was the dragon of ancestor Lien. A young man named Atto appeared next to our wizard. Atto said he would give up his life to create an escape route for the wizard. He was the hope, and he should leave this era. Atto said that with his knowledge, the wizard could save the fate of humanity in another era. But the wizard had to decline because the forbidden gods of their world, who knew the secrets of time, would keep an eye on them. They were a part of this era and couldn't escape from it. He tapped his staff on the ground, and an orange magical circle appeared. Orange mana surrounded the wizard, taking the form of books, and in the wizard's hand, a tangible book appeared with a dragon emblem on the cover. The wizard said that they must let the people in another era change the fate of humanity. He looked deeply into the distance. He raised his wand slightly and shot a magical beam into the air. Magical circles amplified it. The further this beam flew, the larger it became, and the larger the magical circles surrounding it grew. Frightening eyes appeared between the clouds. Suddenly, a dark voice proclaimed that all the efforts of humans to resist their annihilation would be pitiful. A monster with many tentacles appeared in the sky. Atto and the wizard recognized it as the forbidden god. The god spoke that any hope, no matter how small, would be swallowed by despair. The forbidden god was about to destroy the beam of the magician, which seemed to be a passage to him. The god emphasized that the people who silently hide in the ruins of this era would turn into dust along with their pitiful hopes. The wizard closed his eyes and disappeared along with Atto, stressing that they might be dust, but they could also be heroes. The knights who were fighting below saw the great wizard and realized that Atto and the wizard had made a sacrifice. The wizard said that the knights should follow him to conclude this ceremony with a fireworks display. The knights, without remorse, sacrificed themselves for the ritual and vanished. The forbidden god didn't like that at all. The people of this era gave a gift to the people of the future. It would be sent to a distant place against the flow of time. A small seed was sent for the future. This is the time of a world where people still rode wild animals. These so-called riders have powerful companions to explore the world, create safe places, and enjoy the world's top resources. Outside these safe places, dangerous beasts lurked everywhere. Black light surrounded an area that had been on the edge of the dangerous wasteland for centuries. The owner of this area was an extremely strong and powerful tamer who had established his own training process with the black light. This mighty tamer had been the one protecting this area for hundreds of years. Within this safe area, a young man could be seen standing in front of a bulletin board, reading a notice. It was a note from the tamer special training camp stating that if someone managed to hatch something within 3 years, they could join the gathering team. However, it was also mentioned that it was dangerous, and one should join with caution. Our protagonist held an egg in his arms and sat on a wooden barrel. He was feeling a bit unsettled. Tomorrow was the last day of the 3 years. And there were no signs of anything hatching. Our protagonist looked down at his egg with a slightly downcast expression, then up at the tower, which was nearly disappearing into the night. Suddenly, he spotted something sparkling, a bright trail of light flying towards him on the horizon. He wondered what it could be, but before he could finish the thought, the beam of light struck him in the head. He fell motionless to the ground, the wooden barrel toppled beside him, and the small blue egg on one side. Our protagonist closed his eyes, but in his thoughts, he saw images of dragons flying, their claws, their majestic roars, their red eyes, and a person who seemed to be controlling a dragon. Suddenly, a voice urged him to wake up. Feeling a bit groggy, our hero opened his eyes. A whip grazed his face. An angry guard berated him for not having the right to sleep in the castle. The guard asked if he had spent the night there. Our protagonist was confused and asked in surprise, "Spend the night?" He wondered if what he had seen was a dream. He raised his hand to his head to check if he had any injuries and tried to recall what he had dreamt. He pondered whether tamers could truly be so powerful as to ride dragons. The still visibly furious guard wondered why he was muttering to himself and told him not to act as if he didn't exist. The guard swung the whip and struck our protagonist's face. The guard explained that he had heard that our hero and other weak unknown individuals were going on an exploration tour outside the walls today. The guard wondered if he would still be capable of doing so after receiving 12 whip lashes and returning alive. Suddenly, the shell of the egg began to crack. A passerby called out our protagonist's name, Su Huan, and drew his attention to it. Su Huan turned towards the egg, filled with anticipation and admiration. He lifted it into the air and exclaimed that after 3 years, he had finally succeeded, and it was definitely not a waste to have waited. The guard grew fearful and apologized to Su Huan. The guard promised to immediately consult the leader of the special training unit to confirm his identity. However, someone stood before them and stated that it was unnecessary. It was Lu Yu, who told Su Huan to try communicating with his egg. Su Huan was puzzled but leaned his face towards the egg and expressed his longing for his little partner. The egg began to move, and Su Huan rejoiced, announcing that it had started moving. Lu Yu shared in Su Huan's joy. She proclaimed that there would now be a new tamer and noticed a scratch on Su Huan's face as she approached him. Su Huan explained the situation, mentioning that the guard had struck him. Lu Yu was not pleased with this revelation. She punished the guard with 20 whip lashes and sent him out into the dangerous land where he would have to survive. The guard started crying and pleaded with Su Huan to spare his life. Su Huan left him behind and followed Lu Yu. Both of them now stood before Fortress Master Zhou He, who asked Lu Yu if Su Huan was the first newcomer this half-year. Lu Yu confirmed this and explained that she had heard that Su Huan was initially supposed to join the reconnaissance unit but unexpectedly passed another test. Lu Yu also mentioned that the reward should not be small. Master Zhou He praised Su Huan's perseverance, acknowledging that he had endured until the very last moment. Zhou He presented Su Huan with 2 options. Option 1 was that since Su Huan's egg was a lizard, he could provide him with dragon scales infused with high-ranking blood. This would accelerate the hatching process until the egg fully hatched. Furthermore, Zhou He explained that Su Huan's partner would be stronger than most others of its kind, and there was a small chance it would directly benefit from the dragon blood, granting it additional strength. Option 2 was that if Su Huan decided to tame a second beast, he could choose one from Master Zhou He's collection. Su Huan decisively chose the first option. Zhou He agreed and sent someone to bring him the scales. Zhou He also advised Su Huan to not lose his heart in the future and to become a great asset to himself and his country. Su Huan looked ecstatic and expressed his determination to meet the expectations. Outside the castle, there were 2 districts, the inner district where the wealthy lived and the outer district where the poorer people resided. Su Huan lived in a small house in the outer part of the city, in the poorer area. When he arrived home, his sister scolded him, asking where he had been all night, as she had been worried. Su Huan's sister had even gone to the castle walls in the morning but couldn't enter. She nearly ripped his ear off. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, surprising Su Huan and his sister. It was the courier sent by Master Zhou He. He greeted Su Huan's sister, bowed, and hoped that they would accept the items. On the plate the courier carried were the scales, along with some gold. Su Huan and his sister were amazed. His sister could hardly believe it and beamed with joy, praising her brother and mentioning that their parents would also be very happy if they were still alive. Su Huan interrupted his sister briefly to remind her that the courier was still there. The three of them stood still and motionless for a few seconds. Suddenly, Su Huan's sister remembered that she still had to work, rushed outside, and slammed the door shut. Su Huan didn't know what to say and accepted the delivery. He opened the small packages and examined the scales. Yellow manna flowed out of the scales and onto Su Huan's forehead, into his head. He saw something. It was the book created by a wizard from an older era. It opened to a page containing instructions on how to turn a lizard into a dragon, with a highly detailed diagram. Su Huan was in a trance-like state. When he regained his senses, he thanked the courier and realized what he had just seen. Adult dragons were one of the most dangerous species, capable of effortlessly annihilating entire colonies. He realized that he didn't yet possess such a powerful dragon and looked down at his egg. He mentally went through the ingredients he would need to develop his lizard and realized that the bloody dragon root, nowadays called Lilibrownwurzel, might be useful. Su Huan remembered that some time ago, there was a girl who was a prodigy and personally taught by Master Zhou. She had only managed to hatch a high-ranking dangerous beast. Su Huan was determined to hatch a dragon that might even surpass this level. Su Huan ran into the city to buy the root he had seen. He crushed it and bathed the egg in it. Additionally, he drew magical circles on the ground and performed the ritual as instructed in the manual. The egg started to glow, and the silhouette of a dragon appeared. Su Huan was startled as the silhouette grew larger and disappeared as quickly as it had come. The egg continued to hatch, and the shell broke. Excitedly, Su Huan wondered what it would become, a lizard or a dragon. The next morning arrived, and the sun rose. At the castle's training center, several people were already training. Lu Yu observed everything, watching the training attentively and sternly. Two of the trainees started gossiping about Su Huan, mocking him for not attending training for 4 days. They sarcastically wondered if he had died at home or if he had become too arrogant because he had become a tamer. Lu Yu noticed something. It was Su Huan, returning to training after 4 days with a backpack. Lu Yu was somewhat annoyed and asked him if he finally remembered that he should also attend training. The other apprentices felt some pity for Su Huan, thinking that he would now receive a proper punishment. Su Huan explained to Lu Yu that he had a reason for not showing up. Lu Yu asked what that reason was, hoping that it would be a good one. Su Huan called for his little friend to come out. 2 cute little hands and yellow eyes emerged from the backpack. A small, adorable baby dragon climbed onto Su Huan's shoulder. It looked incredibly cute and made a sweet sound. Everyone was shocked and amazed at what had appeared. One of the trainees remarked that it wasn't a lizard. Where did this strong presence come from? Lu Yu explained that it was an extremely dangerous species, a dragon. Everyone was shocked. Lu Yu instructed Su Huan to follow her back to Master Zhou. Master Zhou slammed his hands on his desk and confirmed Lu Yu's statement. He looked somewhat angry that someone had managed to hatch such an egg on their first attempt. He asked Lu Yu to find out who was responsible for Su Huan's creation. He wanted the responsible individuals to have 3 months' wages deducted, as they had nearly destroyed the future of a prodigy. Master Zhou recognized that the past few years must have been tough for Su Huan. He explained that if Su Huan had received a normal or even a high-ranking egg, he would have already achieved exceptional achievements. He also stated that many hurdles always reward one handsomely, and with a dragon at the beginning of his career, Su Huan would surpass others in the future if he worked hard. Su Huan patted his chest with his hand and assured Master Zhou that he wouldn't disappoint him. Master Zhou was pleased that the tamer training could produce not only a genius like Su Huan but also someone so persistent. Master Zhou directly asked Su Huan if he wanted to become his disciple. Su Huan was shocked, and even Lu Yu was somewhat surprised. It had been 3 years since Master Zhou had the idea to take on a new disciple in Bei Su Su. Su Huan agreed. He wanted to become his disciple. Master Zhou laughed and was happy. He announced that he would gather all the tamers to hold a grand banquet that evening to celebrate the birth of a new great tamer and the fact that Master Zhou had taken on a new disciple. Night fell, and light emanated from the castle. The banquet was in full swing. Suwon and his older sister were escorted home by the palace guards in a carriage. Suwon explained to his sister that he now had a monthly income of 100 grams of gold. He wanted to buy their old house back someday, which they had to sell for him to receive special training. His sister explained that she couldn't earn that amount of money even in 3 years. She pinched his cheek and told him how amazing he was. Suwon told his sister to rest first as she had work in the morning. Suwon sat at a table with a candle and read the book by the wizard. It explained to Suwon that the difference between beasts lies in the amount of talent they are born with to harness energy. The technique of using this energy in battle is called skills. Skills are the key to winning a fight. As dragons are one of the best species, their talent in energy manipulation is not bad. One of the abilities of dragons is Dragon's Rest, which allows them to quickly restore their physical strength and heal injuries. Additionally, they possess 2 low-ranking abilities, Low-Rank Dragon Power, and Low-Rank Dragon Might, which give dragons a certain level of strength and power. Another offensive skill available to dragons is Ground Spear Sacrifice. There is also another ability called Ground Power Absorption, which allows the dragon to absorb power from the earth. Both Dragon's Rest and Ground Power Absorption lead to a significant increase in vitality, making the dragon highly resilient. And finally, there is the strongest skill, Low-Rank Dragon Breath. This skill belongs to the demon type and grants the dragon tremendous attack power. Suwon attentively read all this information, then looked down at his sweet, sleeping partner and said that he believed the dragon would grow into a powerful being. Suddenly, the little dragon grew multiple times its size in a matter of seconds. Suwon was amazed and astonished. He realized that dangerous species like his dragon grow at an enormous speed. It was the next morning, and the sun was rising over the city. Suwon and Master Zhou were in the training room, facing each other. Master Zhou recognized that Suwon's dragon had great potential. He wanted Suwon to choose one of 3 talents to see what abilities the cute dragon possessed. He also explained that his main attribute was the demon type and showed Suwon his ring. Suwon recognized it as the Master's Tamer Seal. A Tamer Seal is a special item that can contain a large number of beasts, allowing them to rest and regenerate in an internal space. Trained beasts can grow quite large quickly, and it would be impossible to keep just one beast permanently. Therefore, various jewelry items were created that contained the mentioned internal space. Following that, Master Zhou summoned one of his beasts. It was a scarlet demon wolf emitting a red-black aura. Master Zhou explained that it was a scarlet demon wolf that hatched as a simple low-ranking beast but had since evolved into a high-ranking beast due to good nutrition. It was also one of the first beasts that Master Zhou tamed, making it perfect to test the little dragon. Suwon didn't quite believe it and panicked a bit, and even the little dragon was amazed when it saw the large wolf. Master Zhou continued to explain that his wolf possessed both demon and pure attributes. He also wanted Suwon to release his dragon because it would manage fine on its own. The face of our dragon, on the other hand, did not look as if it believed Master Zhou's words. The shadow of the large wolf loomed over the small blue dragon. With fiery red eyes and a growl, the wolf looked down at the dragon. Seeking confirmation, the dragon looked at Suwon. He tried to wish the little dragon good luck and encourage it. Master Zhou commanded his wolf to use demon breath so that the little dragon could watch and learn. The wolf opened its mouth and gathered energy in the form of a ball between its sharp teeth. Black and red energy accumulated into a sphere, growing larger and larger. Suddenly, a "stop" command was given, and the wolf dissipated the stored energy. Master Zhou said it was enough. Suwon was a bit confused but then looked down at his partner. The little dragon was enveloped in dark purple-black energy, and its eyes turned red. Master Zhou realized that the little dragon was clever and could follow along. Suwon cheered on his partner. The dragon opened its mouth and tried to gather the energy as well, But all that came out was some hot air. Su Huan was somewhat disappointed. However, Master Zhou He explained that the dragon understood the technique, and the hot air was the original form of demon energy. He said that Su Huan had a little treasure, as the dragon was very talented, having understood the basic movements just by watching. Master Zhou He raised his finger and made his wolf disappear back into his ring, stating that no further test was necessary. Just as the cute dragon was about to exhale, Master Zhou He summoned a giant platypus and wanted the two to play together. The little blue dragon ran behind Su Huan's leg in fear. The dragon cried out in panic. Su Huan told his teacher that it might be too much to summon such a strong beast right from the beginning. Master Zhou He agreed and proceeded to summon another beast. Red claws stomped on the ground, a mouth opened, revealing black teeth, saliva dripping down, and hot steam escaping. A large-scaled tail swung through the air. Excitedly, Master Zhou He summoned one of his strongest beasts. It was a fire, dragon, demon, and earth attribute dragon. Master Zhou He's dragon looked like a tyrannosaurus. Su Huan and the little cute blue dragon were astonished. Su Huan asked if dragon types were rare. Master Zhou He confirmed this, saying that it was lucky for Su Huan to have obtained one. Normally, newcomers like him wouldn't get one. Many professional tamers want to tame a dragon. Su Huan realized that he should keep the secret book, which had served as a guide to dragons until now, a secret. Master Zhou He asked if Su Huan was ready. The Tyrannosaurus focused its gaze. The little blue dragon, on the other hand, was once again fearful and anxious. Master Zhou He commanded it to use a little of its dragon power so that the little dragon could feel it. The Tyrannosaurus roared, and a gust of wind rushed towards Su Huan. It was an intimidating pressure that rested upon Su Huan. The gust was so strong that if Su Huan were on a small boat, it could capsize at any moment. Master Zhou He then touched Su Huan on his shoulder and told him not to stand within range of an attack. A cold shiver ran through Su Huan as he realized the strength required to create such a range with a mere roar. Su Huan and Master Zhou He noticed, however, that the little dragon unexpectedly withstood the gust of wind. Master Zhou He commanded his Tyrannosaurus to exert a bit more force. The Tyrannosaurus was fully fired up for this command and roared even more powerfully. The little dragon had to exert itself more now and was almost lifted off the ground. Master Zhou He made a premature realization and said that he probably wouldn't be able to withstand this pressure any longer. However, he then realized that the little dragon was building up counterpressure. Even though it was very weak, the little dragon used some dragon power to withstand the force from the Tyrannosaurus. Master Zhou He praised the little dragon and said that with such talent, the dragon could reach unparalleled heights and break the shackles of its species. Su Huan was delighted that his little friend was so strong. Zhou He remembered something and asked Su Huan if he had already used the dragon scales he gave him. Su Huan replied that he had used them immediately upon receiving them. Zhou He explained that the little dragon had absorbed the scales exceptionally well and that its talent would far surpass that of other dragons. He then gave Su Huan a book containing various training methods and techniques. It also included a training method that would train Su Huan's mind. Su Huan looked excited and thanked his teacher. After leaving the castle, Su Huan set out to repurchase his old house. When the owner learned that Su Huan had become a tamer, the repurchase went smoothly. Before his sister, Su Qing, returned home from work, Su Huan tidied up the house again. Although he couldn't restore the house to its former glory, he was satisfied with what he had accomplished. He didn't tell his sister about the purchase because he wanted to surprise her. Su Huan prepared to go to his sister's workplace to pick her up and bring her home. He stroked his dragon and set off to his sister. Dogs barked and bared their teeth. Su Qing called for help. Su Huan recognized his sister's scream and immediately ran towards her. Su Qing ordered the dogs to go away, but they didn't obey. 3 young men spoke mockingly to Su Qing and asked why she was running away. claiming that the dogs wouldn't bite. Ironically, they said that the dogs just wanted to play. Su Qing was terrified and waved her hand to keep the dogs at a distance. The gang's leader said in a smug manner that if Su Qing would accompany him that evening, he would call off his dogs. Angry, Su Huan confronted the group, telling them to keep their mouths shut, and attacked the dogs with a brick, knocking one of them out. He warned them to stay away from his sister, emphasizing that just because the gangster's father was the boss of a plantation, it didn't give him the right to do whatever he wanted. The gang's leader sadly called his dog's name and asked how Su Huan dared to hit his poor dog. He ordered his other dog to bite Su Huan, and the dog rushed towards him. Su Qing wanted her brother to run away. The dog leaped and flew towards Su Huan, but just before it could bite his face, our little dragon looked angry, its eyes turned red, and it growled. The little cute dragon then attacked the dog in a single leap. Su Huan and Su Qing were surprised. The little dragon nibbled on some meat from the dog. The gangsters were shocked and asked how he dared to do that. The leader and his gang were so angry that they drew a knife and charged towards Su Huan and Su Qing. Su Huan commanded his partner to use dragon power. Black and lilac energy gathered in front of the little dragon. The gangsters were frightened and realized that they couldn't match Su Huan's power. Suddenly, guards arrived at the scene. One of the leader's followers suggested reporting Su Huan to the guards, saying that they would arrest him immediately. The leader liked the idea since he was already friends with a few guards. They planned to visit him in his cell and continue to punish him until he couldn't do anything anymore. He looked at Su Qing with perversion in his eyes, drifting into his perverse thoughts. His dogs hadn't died in vain, after all. The leader of the guards recognized the gangster boss and asked what they were doing there. The gangster boss ordered the guards to arrest Su Huan, claiming that he had cruelly killed his dogs, and pointed at Su Huan and Su Qing. The leader of the guards then ordered his men to handcuff Su Huan. The two guards hoped that after Su Huan had killed the two dogs, he would surrender. Su Huan threw his brick at the feet of the guards and said that if they were unhappy about the dogs being dead, they should arrest the brick since he had killed them after all. The guards became angry at Su Huan's arrogance after he had killed the two dogs and planned to punish him further once he was locked up. Suddenly, the two guards turned pale and looked at our little blue friend. The little dragon was angry and growled. They realized that Su Huan was a beast tamer. Furthermore, Su Huan showed them Master Zhou emblem and ordered the guards to take a good look at it. Shocked, the guards examined the seal, and even the leader of the guards realized his situation and who he was dealing with. He drew his gun and fired into the air, surprising the gangsters. He aimed the weapon at the gangsters and explained their crimes. He ordered his helpers to handcuff the gang members, stating that if they resisted, they had permission to shoot them immediately. The gangster told the captain of the guards that he was making a mistake, as his father was the fifth boss of the plantation, and he could owe them a favor. The guard then struck the gangster leader and ordered his men to beat him as well. The guard praised Su Huan for intervening before the dogs could harm anyone. Su Huan commended the guards for quickly handling the situation. The leader of the guard team thanked him and asked if Su Huan was satisfied that the three gangsters received a proper beating. Su Huan made it clear that whatever happened to them in prison, he would find them and personally visit them afterward. The guards took note of it fearfully. Su Huan then told his sister that they could go home now. Su Qing was happy and wanted to go home with her brother. The guards wondered which would be worse, having a plantation boss as an enemy or a beast tamer. Unanimously, they realized that it would be better to have a plantation boss as an enemy since there was no telling if they could survive a beast tamer. One guard was to fetch a car so they could lock up the gangsters and then dispose of them. Su Qing was overjoyed. She never thought she would be able to live in her old house again. It felt like a dream. Su Huan said that she shouldn't be too happy as this was just the beginning and handed her the house keys. Su Qing emphasized that she now had hope for a better and brighter future. There was a knock on the door. Su Huan opened it, and an older man greeted him, introducing himself as the deputy chief of the plantation. Su Qing recognized him. He had learned that Su Huan and Su Qing were being harassed by gangsters connected to the fifth boss of the plantation and wanted to help. He wanted to demote the boss and turn him into a regular farmer who could easily meet an accident. He wanted to ask if this punishment seemed appropriate to Su Huan and Su Qing. Su Huan praised the chief and found the idea clever. Additionally, he wanted to promote Su Qing to a less dangerous position but in a higher position. However, Su Qing wasn't sure if she would fit in there. The chief of the plantation encouraged her and offered her the opportunity to always come to him. Su Qing accepted the offer, and she and the plantation chief were happy. Su Huan understood that the stronger he became, the more privileges he would receive. He poured some rice into a bowl, a bit too much rice. He wanted our little sweet farmer dragon, Doll, to eat the rice so that he would grow big and strong quickly. He had received the recipe for it from Master Zhou. The dragon didn't seem very enthusiastic about the large amount and looked quite sad. There are 8 stages of food consumption. The recipe he received was specifically for demon-type creatures of the rank good. Su Huan wondered why the little dragon didn't want to eat more and only took 2 small bites. He wondered if there might be a problem with the ingredients. Su Huan got an idea. He could check his other book to see if there was any information about why the dragon didn't want to eat anymore. He summoned the book and read that when a dragon hatches, its eggshell becomes its food, which keeps it satiated for a long time. Afterward, it depends on the dragon's type as to what kind of food it prefers, often favoring live prey. Su Huan understood the problem and decided to adjust the recipe accordingly. Since he received money from his teacher every month, the dragon could eat whatever it wanted, and it seemed to be delighted. In the following days, Su Huan prepared the food exactly as described in the book, and it seemed to please the little dragon. However, a significant problem arose. After only 5 days, Su Huan was already broke. He held the letter containing the money up in the air, and only a single coin fell out and rolled toward the dragon's tail. It was evident that the dragon had grown and sprouted wings. But even if he bankrupted himself to make the dragon grow, Su Huan thought to himself that the dragon must continue to grow and ascend to a higher class. He was thrilled with the dragon's progress and imagined how the dragon, in its current form, would fight against the dogs from a few days ago. Whether the dragon would fly and bite, attack with its claws, or simply tear them apart, it would easily defeat the dogs. At the dragon's current size, normal people would hardly be able to harm him, not even with pistols, even if there were 5 of them at once. The dragon was eating but slightly annoyed by Su Huan absent-mindedly petting him while lost in thought. Su Huan wanted to visit Master Zhou before the dragon advanced to the next stage. However, he had doubts about ascending a stage in just 5 days. It seemed impossible, and it would surely be attributed to the book. He had to be careful not to reveal his secret. He announced that he needed to train the dragon's skills and that there would be no food for the next 10 days. Our dragon's eyes widened at this declaration. 10 days later, at Master Zhou's castle, Su Huan knocked on the master's door with our blue friend by his side. Master Zhou called out loudly for the 2 partners to come inside. Master Zhou was slightly annoyed that it had been a while since Su Huan had come for training. Su Huan apologized and explained that he had spent the last few days feeding and training his dragon. He also mentioned that it was only because of his recipe that his dragon had experienced a true growth spurt. Master Zhou was amazed at how quickly it had happened. Su Huan tried to conceal the fact that it had only been 10 days since his dragon had looked small and cute. His master lovingly scolded him and mentioned that even his previous student, who had a simpler beast than him, took a whole month to make it grow. He asked how quickly Su Huan could make the dragon grow. However, he also mentioned that as long as he didn't use forbidden techniques to accelerate the process, everything would be fine. Master Zhou praised Su Huan for not only possessing talent and skills but also in raising beasts. Zhou inquired about the skills the dragon had already learned now that it had grown larger. Su Huan explained that the dragon had reached the first level of dragon power, which had split into 2 skills, intimidation and powerful shock. Demon Breath had also advanced and transformed into Spitball. Master Zhou He was astonished that Su Huan had developed such skills in just 10 days. Su Huan flattered the master to divert attention from the fact that it was actually impossible. Fortunately, he had kept 2 additional skills that the dragon possessed hidden. Master Zhou He invited our pair to accompany him to his training room, as he wanted to see how far their duo had grown. Our dragon looked somewhat clueless. Master Zhou He said that if he was satisfied, he would give Su Huan a tamer seal, which he could use to send his dragon, and mentioned that the dragon would continue to grow bigger and bigger. Su Huan was eager to show his master what they were capable of. As a result, Master Zhou He summoned a huge stone bear. Our duo was shocked and fascinated, asking how many beasts the master owned to be able to summon a different one each time. He said he had around 20. Master Zhou He asked if they were ready and told them to demonstrate what they had learned from their training. The gigantic stone bear let out a roar, saliva escaped its mouth, and a shockwave rushed towards our dragon and Su Huan. Our dragon's eyes turned red as it activated the intimidation ability. Master Zhou He praised him for it and ordered his bear to stop. He said he would make it easier for our heroes and told them to try attacking with Demon Breath. The dragon gathered a heap of purple and black energy in its mouth and shaped it into a ball, which it then shot off. The black ball raced toward the bear at an incredible speed, but nothing happened. Master Zhou He asked if they had not eaten, as it had only tickled a bit. Su Huan laughed and commanded our dragon to continuously fire spitballs. Determined, the dragon obeyed and kept firing at the same spot until a small piece of stone broke off from the bear's skin, causing it some pain. Zhou He praised the two for mastering this technique all by themselves. Developing a technique that fired many quick and precise shots using demon energy was no easy feat. Su Huan thanked him for the praise. Zhou He was satisfied with his performance and then gave him a seal in which he could store up to 5 of his companions, with the possibility of squeezing in 10 if his friends could manage it. Su Huan expressed his gratitude once again. Zhou He continued, stating that Su Huan didn't need to be so happy because even though his progress was remarkable, he lacked combat experience. This experience could only be gained through real battles and learning from them. Zhou He had decided to send our protagonist to the garrison in the north, where he would have the opportunity to fight against many dangerous species. Su Huan was somewhat shocked by this. There were a total of 4 defense lines, each manned by soldiers. Among these lines, the most dangerous were the southern and northern sides, where soldiers fought against dangerous species every day. Most of the materials in the city came from the battles fought on these lines. Su Huan asked if he could be paid in advance and received 250,000 silver coins, half of which went toward the blue dragon's food. Su Huan needed a full 3 days to cook all the necessary dishes. Once he had finished everything, he had to leave immediately. He was going to the northern outpost, where he would assist as a team member at the 7th watch post. The inner 4 lines were intended for plantations. Naturally, the plantations would never be enough, so there were additional ones outside the walls. However, these were much more dangerous as beasts could appear at any time. The deputy chief of the plantation personally brought Su Huan to his assigned location, which surprised the soldiers already stationed there. They immediately recognized him as a tamer and understood that the food on the truck was meant for their dragon. 2 soldiers panicked and rushed downstairs to help Su Huan. They asked why he would personally do it and insisted that they could take care of it. Our hero, visibly embarrassed, assured them that it was not necessary. The red-haired soldier introduced himself as Xiao Huang. Su Huan explained that Xiao Huang was older than him and that he preferred to call him Brother Huang. Brother Huang burst into tears, expressing his gratitude for being treated so well. He then ordered the other soldiers to assist with unloading the supplies. There were a total of 29 outposts in the northern area, and Su Huan was stationed at the 7th outpost. 10 years ago, this outpost had been completely destroyed, with no survivors. Today, it had been rebuilt from its ruins. Su Huan was excited about his new adventures. As the afternoon progressed, they cooked noodles. Brother Huang and Su Huan sat together at a table to eat. Su Huan suggested calling him simply Huan, but Brother Huang explained that being a tamer was a big deal, so out of respect, he would like to call him Brother Su. They sat together with two other comrades, enjoying noodles and some meat. Su Huan and Brother Huang became friends. Su Huan asked the group how often monsters appeared here and how strong they were. The blonde soldier who had helped with unloading explained that it was moderate here. There weren't as many monsters as in the outer area. But occasionally, a monster would stray here and sneak around. He pointed to an area behind Su Huan where the dead bodies of the monsters they had slain in recent days were piled up. They would be collected in the middle and at the end of each month, and accordingly, they would receive points. Su Huan praised the soldiers and was surprised that they managed to eliminate so many without the help of a beast. Another soldier asked if Su Huan could show his beast. Brother Huang was shocked by this question and reprimanded them, saying that they shouldn't summon their beasts at will and how dare they ask such a thing. However, Su Huan assured them that it was not a problem and summoned our blue dragon. Everyone was surprised to see that our dragon belonged to one of the best species. They were impressed by the dragon. Our dragon instinctively used its powerful shock skill before anything worse could happen. However, Su Huan knelt down and whispered in the dragon's ear, scolding him and explaining that he shouldn't use his skills recklessly. He asked if Xiao Hu was okay or if he had gotten hurt. Xiao Hu reassured him that he was fine and that his dragon was really awesome. The other soldiers teased Xiao Hu, saying that he almost wet his pants. They all had a great evening together. Night fell. After dinner, Su Huan quickly became friends with the 5 soldiers. As he unpacked some things and his dragon slept, he continued training his mind according to his master's instructions. Step is to remove all distractions from one's mind and visualize a crystal. The second step is to adjust one's breathing. The third and final step is to strengthen one's mind and thoughts. Su Huan realized that he still had a long way to go. He looked at the moon when suddenly an alarm went off. He recognized it as an emergency. Brother Huang rushed over and informed Su Huan that there was an emergency and he should come quickly. Beasts were approaching the outpost. They identified the beasts through a telescope, noting their species and characteristics. The beasts could fly, had a tough shell, and could break stones like blades of grass with their blades. Su Huan realized that the approaching beasts were already fully grown. Brother Huang explained that this species was widespread here and reproduced quickly. Everyone should prepare for battle. They should split up, and the 3 smaller beasts should be left to Su Huan to defeat the fully grown one. Everyone agreed that this was the best plan. Bullets flew through the air, but the beasts, thanks to their ability, recognized what was happening and activated a shield to protect themselves from the bullets. However, there were special bullets that broke through the shield and injured the beasts. They needed to kill the beasts without damaging their heads, as their materials would be worthless. Su Huan realized that the protective ability of the beasts was not very strong. But if one created a hole with a machine gun, the snipers had a chance to make a direct hit. Su Huan observed the events through a telescope. Several bullets hit the ability and weakened it. The sniper sensed his chance, prepared for the shot, and killed the wild beast. Su Huan realized that this was probably the northern defense line. Although they were not tamers, they had coordinated perfectly and won many battles, making them strong enough to defeat these beasts. They had already defeated 3 of the 4 beasts when the last one decided to run away. Our group pursued it, driving after it and cornering it. The beast recognized the danger it was in. Su Huan got out of the car and made his way to confront the beast. Brother Huang reminded everyone to be attentive and ensure Su Huan's safety as he might come from inside the walls and possibly hold a high position. Su Huan approached the wild beast and summoned his blue dragon, who was immediately eager for battle, surrounded by purple and black magic. The dragon charged at the beast, which promptly activated its shield ability. However, our dragon easily broke through it and threw the beast away. Su Huan realized that the shield could still absorb a lot of damage, so he commanded his dragon to continuously use Spitball. The dragon obeyed the command and unleashed Spitball, but even that the shield could withstand. It was truly very robust, Su Huan thought to himself. The wild beast enchanted its blades to launch a stronger attack. Su Huan countered it with the ability threat, which cancelled the wild beast's attack. Then he commanded his dragon to simply tear it apart. However, the dragon missed, and the beast tried to run away. Su Huan now ordered the use of the ability Stone Edge, which was promptly deployed and impaled the wild beast. His comrades were amazed as they watched the spectacle. They realized that he probably didn't need any help. He was too strong. It became morning, and during their morning gathering, they shared the details of the battle. They said he was different from the others who usually came here to train. Su Huan passed on the praise and said that everyone had done a good job. Suddenly, they received a report that someone had arrived. They wanted to check who it could be and ran outside to the wall. They looked down and saw a convoy of transporters. It was the headquarters convoy. They found it strange because normally not so many transporters would come, and they would arrive later in the afternoon rather than so early. Su Huan had a suspicion of what might be happening. The convoy entered the fortress. The northern outpost's commander-in-chief, Lu Ling, got out. Brother Huang immediately received him. Lu Ling said that many years had passed, but there was hardly anything that had changed. Brother Huang said that he never thought the commander-in-chief would remember him and became so happy that he started crying. He asked Lu Ling if his journey had been difficult. Lu Ling told him to stop crying and that his journey was no more difficult than others. Lu Ling also asked our protagonist how he was doing here at the outpost. Su Huan addressed the commander-in-chief as Commander-in-Chief, which Lu Ling didn't quite like. Su Huan corrected himself and addressed Lu Ling as brother like everyone else, saying that he liked it here very much. Lu Ling was pleased to hear that and mentioned that Master Zhou He had bragged about him several times. Lu Ling explained that he had missed him before, but now he had personally come to see him. Brother Huang and another soldier were amazed that the commander-in-chief had come personally to see Su Huan. They thought he was just a regular tamer and not the master's apprentice. They breathed a sigh of relief and were glad that nothing bad had happened. Lu Ling ordered them not to just stand there but to recount the achievements of the past half-month. Lu Ling also commanded Su Huan to summon his dragon so that he could get an idea of how his training was going and report it to Master Zhou He later. Su Huan thought he would finally have some rest but realized that this was a mistake. He called his dragon, and even Lu Ling was amazed by it. Lu Ling mentioned that Master Zhou He said that it had only been a month since he hatched it and asked if that was true. Su Huan pretended to be ignorant and observed that the tremendous growth spurt was due to him killing a few beasts here. Asking if that was a problem. Lu Ling denied it, he was just surprised that his dragon was so much larger than it was back then. Lu Ling said that he also wanted to test his combat experience and challenged him to a small test battle with his dragon-type beast. Lu Ling raised his hand and summoned his beast, a rhinoceros. He explained that his rhinoceros was of the ground and dragon type and had a high danger rating. He further explained that he had trained it very well and placed great emphasis on defense. His rhinoceros could withstand many attacks. Lu Ling stated that it was one of his main beasts that he used. The rhinoceros raised its claw, and its eyes gleamed with fighting spirit. While our dragon, at the beginning of every battle, was somewhat fearful. Su Huan asked Lu Ling to go easy and not kill his dragon. Lu Ling was confused, as he had no intention of killing it. His rhinoceros knew when to stop, it really didn't seem like it wanted to hurt anyone. However, Lu Ling assured that it wouldn't harm or injure anyone. Su Huan was ready for the battle. Lu Ling commanded rhinoceros to stomp the ground, and it did so, creating a crater with its powerful stomp. Su Huan was shocked and immediately realized that Lu Ling was using magic to levitate. Su Huan ordered his dragon to fly outside of Rhinoceros' attack range and prepare for a counterstrike. His dragon grabbed him by the shoulders and flew into the air. Su Huan commanded his dragon to continuously use Shadow Ball and retaliate. However, the Shadow Balls caused almost no damage. Rhinoceros' skin was too thick to leave a scratch. Su Huan realized that it was impossible to defeat Rhinoceros at the moment. The only thing he could do was to show what his dragon had learned and the progress it had made to not disappoint Master Zhou He. He ordered his dragon to become faster and attack from all directions. The dragon became faster and faster, firing shadow balls from every imaginable direction. Additionally, it gathered a large amount of purple and black energy and unleashed a giant hyper beam directly onto Rhinoceros' back. It had an effect. The outer scales of Rhinoceros turned slightly red. Su Huan then commanded his dragon to absorb vitality from the earth. Both Rhinoceros and the dragon absorbed the earth's energy to recover. But before Lu Ling and his Rhinoceros could counterattack, Su Huan ordered his dragon to use Stone Edge. Su Huan's dragon, which was now fired up for the battle, executed the command directly. However, the motivation and determination of Rhinoceros were still present. By now, Rhinoceros was even somewhat angry. It used Stomp again and threw our dragon backward. Su Huan immediately ran to his comrades. Lu Ling praised Su Huan for his excellent tactics, but he mentioned that the abilities of his Rhinoceros had already reached level 9, making it too easy to counter Su Huan's Stone Edge. Su Huan asked if he had completed his mission, and in that moment, the little blue dragon shed tears, saddened by its defeat. Lu Ling apologized and understood the progress they had made. Master Zhou He would surely be very pleased. He also remarked on the impressive growth rate and how Master Zhou He had found a great disciple. Rhinoceros comforted our little dragon, and together they looked really cute. It seemed like the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Not long after Lu Ling left the outpost, winter arrived, and it started to snow. The outpost was really cold, and the icy wind blew from the north. Without electricity or other heat sources, the only way to keep warm was in sleeping bags. The soldiers were looking forward to summer because it was really cold. One of the soldiers explained that Su Huan possessed an ability that made him impervious to the cold. Suddenly, an alarm went off again, and everyone immediately stood up. The current situation was announced, and Brother Huang assigned tasks to the people. Everyone knew what to do, and they ran to their positions. Brother Huang explained that according to Lu Ling, it was very serious. Planetage number 25 had been completely taken over by monsters. There seemed to be many different types of beasts. The workers had managed to seek safety but were trapped. Currently, they were relying only on a few broken fences and ruins. That wouldn't be enough. Sooner or later, they would likely die without help. Our outpost number 5 would receive assistance from outposts 3 and 4. Brother Huang explained that with the help of the other 2 outposts, they would be fully manned, but they had to launch the attack before 4 a.m. Brother Huang informed the driver that it was already 3:40 a.m. and that they needed to drive faster to arrive on time. They reached Planetage 25 at the northwestern gate, Gate 6. Brother Huang introduced himself to the outpost personnel at the gate. The employee at the gate said they should quickly drive to the focal point. He would provide them with information through a radio channel. Brother Huang agreed and immediately set off. The radio channel conveyed the information that the beasts had been sighted on the northwest side of gate number 5 and that they had advanced further into the grain fields. They were feasting on the bodies of the deceased workers. The surviving workers had been relocated to the headquarters and instructed to defend themselves there. Our team continued to hurry, driving as fast as possible. A whole convoy and 2 tanks were on their way to rescue the surviving workers. A special warning was also issued over the radio channel. The beasts were identified as a group of poisoned, decayed wolves with robust health. The voice explained that their weakness was their heads and that as soon as one was spotted, it should be killed immediately. The group's mission was to eliminate all dangerous beasts and save the surviving workers. Su Huan and Brother Huang sat in the car, attentively listening to the message. The two tanks leading the convoy stopped and fired their cannons, hitting several wolves at once. One wolf recognized the new threat and howled into the early morning, prompting many of its comrades to charge towards our convoy. Su Huan told Xiao Hu that something was strange and asked him to drive a bit slower to increase their distance. Xiao Hu was confused, as was Brother Huang, who asked why he wanted that. Su Huan asked if they also heard a strange howling. He continued that his teacher once said that when something like this happens, a poisoned, decayed wolf could do it, and there was a chance it could develop into a leader, although the chance was small. Brother Huang also found it strange and mentioned that they were now increasing their distance, asking what they should do. Su Huan explained that a poisonous, decayed wolf leader would command its subordinates, which was why these dangerous beasts could overcome the plantation's defense. The leader of the wolves had red eyes and was surrounded by a black, poisonous gas emanating from its mouth, which was filled with sharp, pointed teeth and dripping saliva. Thanks to its ability called wolf smog, it emitted a small black poisonous mist everywhere. It even reached the convoy, and they immediately realized it was toxic gas. They were told over the radio channel to use the infrared targeting system and remain vigilant, being careful not to accidentally harm their teammates. Su Huan knew that it wouldn't be as easy as they were told over the radio and ordered Xiao Hu to retreat, which he agreed to. Brother Huang looked out the window and saw a very large wolf and a few smaller ones attacking a nearby car. He called Su Huan and told him to look as well. The very large wolf effortlessly tore open the car's roof with its huge, strong claws, causing the driver to sit inside in a state of panic and despair. They flipped the car over and pounced on it. Su Huan's team arrived in front of the car. Su Huan realized that it was a shadow wolf companion and that it was one of the leader's abilities, meaning there must be a leader present. Brother Huang pulled out his weapon and alerted his friends that the wolves were approaching them. The shadow wolf companion quickly charged and body-checked the car, shattering the glass. Brother Huang didn't have time to fire his weapon, instead, he had to protect his face from the falling shards of glass with his other hand. When the tires regained enough traction, the car containing Su Huan, Brother Huang, and Xiao Hu drove away. Brother Huang now fired his weapon at the wolves and was somewhat angry at how strong they were. When he fired at the shadow wolf companion running beside him, he noticed that his bullets couldn't penetrate its fur. The shadow wolf companion took advantage of a brief moment and leaped into the air. It struck the roof with a single powerful blow, smashing it to pieces. Su Huan was surprised and looked directly into the mouth of the shadow wolf companion, prompting him to summon his dragon companion. His dragon emerged right in front of Su Huan, surrounded by a purple aura, its red eyes exuding a strong sense of threat. His dragon used Silver Gaze, lowering the wolf's defense and momentarily stunning it. Then the dragon continued channeling dark purple energy in its mouth, firing multiple small projectiles into the air that struck the wolf with pinpoint accuracy. Its entire face was obliterated, and the shadow wolf companion was defeated, crashing to the ground. Su Huan called the commander and said that in order to avoid unintentional injuries, he would proceed alone to defeat the poisonous, decayed wolf leader but requested backup. The commander looked at Su Huan through binoculars and thought to himself that he was as strong as he had expected, considering he was Master Zhou He's student. He gave the command to all other units to support Su Huan's car. Number 10, and leave the wolf leader to him. They would take care of the remaining smaller wolves to prevent them from interrupting his fight. Su Huan understood and leaped out of the car with his dragon companion. Our team began the search for the leader of the wolf pack, but the dense, toxic black fog made it challenging to locate him. However, Brother Huang had found something and called Su Huan's attention to it, asking him to look in his direction to show him what he had discovered. Su Huan was shocked when he saw the large leader of the poisonous, decayed wolves, tearing apart a tank with its massive claws. A soldier cried out for help as he tried to escape from the wolf leader. Su Huan wanted him to stop and commanded his dragon to attack immediately. The dragon rushed forward and tackled the wolf with a swift combination of strikes and body checks, sending the wolf flying backward into some rocks. When the wolf regained its footing, it was furious, growling and baring its teeth, ready to continue the fight. The wolf climbed over a stone wall and the tank, where the soldier was still trapped. The soldier thanked Su Huan, but the wolf noticed that the soldier was still there and hadn't taken the opportunity to escape. Grinning, the soldier thanked Su Huan again, saying he thought he was going to die and had seen his life flash before his eyes. Su Huan, running towards the soldier, desperately asked him what he was doing and where he found the time to thank him calmly. He told him to run and get out of there. Just a few seconds later, a sharp spike from the wolf pierced the soldier's abdomen, and his face turned blue. Su Huan had to witness this horrifying sight and couldn't believe what he was seeing. The wolf retracted its tail, to which the spike was attached, and the soldier fell lifeless to the ground. Su Huan and his partner were still in shock, realizing that everything had unfolded just a few meters away from them, and they couldn't do anything to prevent it. Su Huan couldn't believe it and commanded his dragon to use Stone Edge. One of the dragon's front paws stomped the ground, and it unleashed Stone Edge. Sharp, crystal-like stones emerged from the ground and flew towards the wolf. However, the wolf countered with Shadow Rush, wiping out the attack. It made a mighty leap forward. Su Huan saw an opportunity and ordered Xiao Hu to suppress it with firepower since the wolf had moved beyond the convoy's range. Xiao Hu and Brother Huang, hiding behind a wall, followed the command and fired their weapons at the poisonous, decayed wolf leader. Bullets flew towards the wolf, which glanced at them for a brief moment, seemingly paralyzed. Meanwhile, Su Huan's dragon leaped once again with a swift strike and unleashed its bite. Su Huan had planned this sequence and commanded his dragon to attack again and use Silver Gaze. The dragon flew up into the air, its eyes glowing slightly red, and employed Silver Gaze, causing the wolf to tremble. The dragon channeled dark purple energy once more, this time not in its mouth but in one of its claws. It used Dragon Claw, flying towards the wolf and delivering a devastating blow, defeating it thoroughly. The partially damaged but still functioning vehicle of our team began its journey back. They passed through a fissure in the rocks, with large mountains in the background, and it continued to snow, the cold becoming more intense. Brother Huang asked Su Huan what was troubling him as he sat pensively in the back of the car, reflecting on what had transpired. He fiddled with his ring and contemplated if there had been another way to help the soldier, to prevent his death. Brother Huang tried to uplift him, explaining that in the past, during similar invasions, the base wouldn't have sent out a tamer. Thanks to Su Huan, they had suffered minimal losses, and without him, the casualties would have been twice as high or more. He was proud of him and said that Brother Su had done an excellent job today, that he should be proud of himself for the help he had provided. Then, Brother Huang rolled up his sleeve, revealing a scar he had received during his first mission to rescue a plantation. He recounted how that battle had been even more challenging, resulting in the deaths of over 50 soldiers. A vehicle had been attacked by an adult gold-black, multi-armed ape, and the people inside had turned into a kind of meat sauce. In the end, the Northern Line's commander, Mr. Chow, had to come personally to finish the battle. Brother Huang offered Su Huan a drink and handed him a bottle of water, assuring him that he would feel much better afterward. Su Huan accepted the bottle and understood the message his spiritual brother was conveying. Brother Huang looked up at the sky and said that unfortunately, some things were the way they were, and everyone here knew it and accepted it. Nobody could guarantee that after falling asleep tonight, they would all wake up again to see the sunrise. Only people like Su Huan, who were tamers, could take their fate into their own hands and determine their own path, said Brother Huang, extending his hand to Su Huan, surprising him with his perspective. But Su Huan took his hand and placed it on Brother Huang's shoulder, responding that he didn't want him to think that way. He wanted to go home together with him and eat meat and cook together with the others. Brother Huang laughed and agreed. That was a beautiful idea. It would be much nicer if they all cooked, ate, and had fun together. Please give a like and subscribe to Brother Su Huang for honorary brother. This was Su Huan's first mission, and a significant number of comrades were severely wounded or dead. However, he was like a true warrior and now understood that in this chaotic world, he could only protect himself and the comrades around him by becoming stronger. It has been a month since the tragic event, and Su Huan followed the instructions of the ancient spellbook, undergoing special training with his dragon to become stronger and protect the people around him. The effect of this training was remarkable. His dragon grew much larger and stronger, and his control over its energy system significantly improved. The abilities of his dragon were also greatly enhanced and improved. While Su Huan was immersed in his training, completely focused on it, the seventh outpost had a familiar visitor. Lu Ling arrived riding a lion at a very high level and with a high level of threat, greeting Su Huan. Su Huan was fascinated by the sight of Lu Ling riding on the lion and wondered if he could one day ride his dragon in the same way. Lu Ling approached Su Huan with enthusiasm and shared the remarkable performance in the recent epic battle for the plant garden. Su Huan's abilities on the battlefield amazed the other soldiers and even impressed the high-ranking commander. He was praised for his outstanding achievements and received a special commendation. It was evident that his teacher had complete trust in him and valued his abilities greatly. This recognition was well-deserved for our brave hero. Su Huan asked Lu Ling if the teacher did not want them to have a monthly evaluation. He also asked if a month had already passed since his last absence. Lu Ling reminded Su Huan that it was time for the evaluation. He explained that he had some spare time in the past 2 days and had come to avoid any delays and being scolded by the teacher. He laughed and said it was better to get it done now before it was too late. Lu Ling asked Su Huan to release his dragon so they could begin the training. He mentioned that they could meet later to chat. Su Huan called out his dragon, raising his hand, and the ring on his finger emitted a purple glow, summoning his dragon behind him. It had grown much larger and more majestic in just a month. Its scales had completely transformed, and it was no longer a mere teenager but almost fully grown. Lu Ling was amazed at the dragon's rapid growth. He noticed that Su Huan's breeding formula might be at a perfect level. Su Huan expressed surprise and said that he had always used the formula given to him by the teacher. He wondered if it was possible that the little dragon absorbed nutrients better. But of course, he knew it was because he was using the formula from his secret book. Lu Ling froze at this answer and didn't want to believe it. He asked Su Huan to put away his dragon and explained that further tests were no longer necessary. He reminded Su Huan that according to the teacher's instructions, the training would be completed when the dragons reached the middle growth phase. Lu Ling also informed Su Huan that according to the teacher's instructions, the training at the northern border was now completed. It was time to gather and prepare to return to the castle to meet the teacher. Su Huan expressed his surprise and asked if it was really possible to return so quickly. Brother Huang and Brother Wen were very sad that it was time to say goodbye and started crying. Su Huan was visibly astonished and exclaimed, "Oh, really?" Brother Huang and Brother Wen cried even more and didn't want Su Huan to leave. It would be boring and lonely without him, and they wouldn't be able to sleep without him. Su Huan noticed that everyone seemed very energetic. He suggested that his little dragon could accompany them during their running training. Brother Huang asked why Su Huan was looking at him when Brother Wen was the one who couldn't sleep without him. Wen expressed his discontent with an energetic remark that he couldn't sleep. Su Huan expressed his confidence that none of them could escape. He encouraged everyone to go running with the little dragon and laughed out loud. The next day in Master Zhou training room, Lin Fu, the mayor's household manager and loyal subordinate, praised Su Huan, who was panting on the ground, for his impressive endurance. He confirmed that Su Huan was by no means lazy this month, as Lu Ling had mentioned before. Lin Fu was once the servant of Master Zhou's father and an experienced semi-professional tamer specializing in refining the spirit staff. Lin Fu was pleased with Su Huan's progress. He said that while Su Huan may not be as talented as his sister, he had shown good endurance and dedication. In this month, he had laid solid foundations in handling the spirit staff training. Lin Fu considered Su Huan a promising student. Master Zhou He was impressed by Su Huan's rapid progress and successful completion of the training within a month. He remarked that Su Huan must have worked hard during this time. Su Huan remained modest and said that it wasn't very difficult to achieve such progress in just a month, let alone that he had exerted himself. Su Huan explained to Master Zhou He that through practice and training, one can always feel the clear sense of growth in their sharpened life. Compared to the 3 years of hatching and training pet eggs, where he repeatedly failed to make progress, the current life was much better. In such a life, where is the difficulty? However, Zhou He had to admit that the achievements Su Huan was making far exceeded his expectations and had to praise him for it. Su Huan wondered if he might be sent to another distant outpost and considered what task might be assigned to him. However, Master Zhou He planned for Su Huan to participate in a combat competition that would take place in a month. It was an event called the Six-Field Combat Competition that Master Zhou He wanted to prepare Su Huan for. Su Huan was somewhat surprised. Master Zhou He explained that the Six-Field Combat Competition takes place once a year and it is a tournament jointly organized by 6 major assembly sites. It is a significant duel where fighters from different regions come together. He further explained that this tournament officially serves as a duel, but in reality, it is about getting the chance to enter the Blood Forest ruins. Su Huan wondered if exploring the ruins really had to be so elaborate. He pointed out that there were similar ruins near their assembly site as well. Master Zhou He explained that the Blood Forest ruins are fundamentally different from ordinary wilderness ruins. He further explained that the outer areas of the ruins are shielded by a secret energy barrier and cannot be entered. Oh, and the ruins themselves are occupied by an extremely powerful and dangerous race. Their leader is a formidable being of immense strength. At that time, after a fierce battle between the 6 major assembly sites and this being, a compromise was reached. Under pressure and in collaboration with the explorers from the 6 factions, it agreed to voluntarily open access to the secret zone every year for 3 human masters to explore. Thus, the 6-field combat was established. Su Huan expressed his concerns that the opportunity for exploration was extremely rare, and therefore, the competition must be very intense. He wondered if he could participate with his current abilities and if he would even have a chance to win. Master Zhou He smiled and reassured Su Huan not to worry. Master Zhou He explained to Su Huan that for humans, access to the Blood Forest ruins is only limited to the outer area, and the inner core and main ruins are not accessible. For an aspiring young guardian like him, it is definitely a treasure, but for experienced fighters, it is less attractive. Su Huan showed his enthusiasm and determination. He was determined to fight for a place in the competition and return successfully. His ambition was ignited. Furthermore, he learned from his master that 4 other individuals would also participate in the competition. Master Zhou He would introduce them to him tomorrow. Su Huan then asked his master where exactly his training would take place. Master Zhou He mentioned the Bear Forest, which surprised Su Huan with this answer. In the southern part of the gathering point, beyond the southern defense line, in the endless wilderness, stretches the majestic Gray Bear Forest, a mighty black forest of impressive size. The wind whistles through the trees, and the forest rustles. In this area, there is an impressive population of wild bears that can grow up to 4 meters tall and weigh several tons. Although they are not considered endangered species due to their natural inability to harness energy, occasionally, remarkably powerful evolutionary beings appear within the bear group, feared even by the mightiest rulers. Su Huan asked his master if the Gray Bear Forest was truly an impassable area. He seemed somewhat panicked and fearful. However, Zhou He was not worried and assured Su Huan that he would understand everything once he entered the forest. Until then, he should take a few days to rest and recover from his journey and intense training. Before Su Huan could raise any objections, Master Zhou He and Lin Fu bid him farewell and left. Our protagonist then made his way home as well. The house was still very large and imposing. It looked truly beautiful from the outside, with many lovely windows in a rustic design. Simply a dream. Su Huan sat at his table, with only 2 small gold coins rolling in front of him. Most of the 250,000 crowns in advance payment had already been spent, and it would be another week and a half until he received the next payment. To maintain the current growth pace, an adequate food supply was crucial. The shortage of food should not be underestimated. Su Huan looked at his dragon, which was in the process of devouring another huge portion of food. It was not a sustainable solution to constantly rely on advancing money to be successful in the long term. It was now time to search for ways to generate financial resources. Su Huan pondered and delved into the subject. In reality, as a beast tamer, there were indeed many different ways to earn money. Tamer of the healer class could use their skills to treat injuries and heal illnesses, thereby generating substantial income. On the other hand, tamer of the plant class could work in large plantations and receive lucrative rewards by increasing crop yields. Water tamers and electric tamers also had the option to join the resource department at the gathering point and benefit from the resources there. But with the support of the ancient dragon scripture, there could be even more efficient solutions. Su Huan contemplated and pondered. Our protagonist immersed himself in darkness and entered the imposing hall of the trading market at the blacklight gathering point. People shouted everywhere, selling their goods. Disappointed and frustrated, our protagonist searched the trading market in the hope of finding a treasure from past dragon documents. However, after hours of rummaging, he had to realize that he had not discovered anything of value. A man standing behind a stall caught the attention of the crowd with a loud voice. It was an important announcement he had to make. He made it clear that they offered high prices for the purchase of valuable black spheroid fat. It was an opportunity not to be missed. Su Huan became attentive and examined the matter closely. He tapped on the man's counter and asked him if what he had just heard was true and if they really bought this black spheroid fat. The man behind the counter looked up from his newspaper and confirmed that they would buy it at a high price. He then asked if Su Huan had any of it. Su Huan replied that he didn't have any and just wanted to inquire about the purpose the man had for the item. The man directed these words at Su Huan, telling him that he didn't care what use he had for it. If Su Huan had something to sell, he was ready to accept it. If not, Su Huan should go his own way and not disturb him in his activities. Su Huan glanced at the papers the man held in his hand and could see a sort of shopping list there. He saw how much the man was willing to pay for it. 1 liter of black spheroid fat amounted to a staggering 63,000 steel cruisers. Su Huan found it surprising that someone was willing to buy it at such a high price. Finally, he had found a way to make money. He bid farewell and continued on. According to the records in the ancient dragon book, black ink squid slime, black oak resin, and a thickening agent are mixed in a ratio of 3:1:2 and refined at high temperature for 75 minutes to produce black spheroid fat. Although according to the Dragon Book records, the black thick fat tree that naturally produces black spheroid fat has long been extinct, it is not uncommon in the blacklight gathering point. Black oak resin is traded there at 60 steel cruisers per liter. Su Huan looked confident and already began planning his next steps in his mind. He realized that he only needed to get his hands on the thickening and melting substances to operate this profitable business. So, Su Huan returned home and immediately set about his plan. Before him stood many smaller chemical devices that he needed for his plan. He commanded his now large dragon partner to step on a pedal twice with its foot, which it did immediately. The furnace blazed and burned fiercely. Su Huan had succeeded. Amidst the 15 districts of the Blacklight Gathering Point, there is a unique institution of great importance, the Research Center for Dangerous Biological Energies. Their main task is to explore the secrets of dangerous creatures and mysterious energies. The building appeared very large from the outside and, apart from its insane architecture, was beautifully designed. It resembled a royal house. Countless scientists were busy inside the building. The research center is under the jurisdiction of 3 research institutes and is likely the primary player in the mass acquisition of black spheroid fat. Su-Hwan filled his mixture of black spheroid fat into bottles but had some concerns during the process. While reselling could bring in a considerable sum this time, there is a risk that the sudden influx of a large quantity of black fat would reveal the secrets of the ancient dragon book. Caution is necessary to avoid being discovered because the black spheroid fat tree is not only rare but also grows extremely slowly. Some dangerous herbivorous species prefer the tender branches and leaves of the black spheroid fat tree, resulting in trees over 1 meter tall being extremely rare. Su-Hwan realized that the procurement of the black fat trees must be done secretly and inconspicuously. The trees are scarce and produce only small amounts of resin per year. However, if a large quantity of it suddenly appears on the black market, it will undoubtedly attract attention. To avoid unwanted attention, it is best to find a store willing to quickly and discreetly take the goods. He could sell them at a reduced price and then disappear inconspicuously. As Su-Hwan was on his way to sell his goods, he suddenly saw a small store called Hong Fa Trading. He entered and placed all his bottles filled with black spheroid fat on the counter. Su-Hwan asked the lady at the counter if he could sell these 30 liters here and named a value of 250,000 steel cruisers. The lady was somewhat surprised and asked where he had obtained so much black spheroid fat. Su-Hwan drew a small sword and held it to the lady's throat. He told her not to ask anything she didn't want to know. The lady was afraid and obediently repeated that she no longer wanted to ask anything. He then sold his goods to the lady behind the bar and disappeared. Su-Hwan believed that he should not use the money for the time being. To weather the situation, he planned to go to Inner Fort and exchange a limited amount of food for his dragon there. This strategic decision allowed him to wait until the situation calmed down. Additionally, he was coincidentally supposed to meet his teammate there, who was undergoing special training. Su-Hwan went to Master Zhouhe's residence, which still looked as magnificent as the first time he saw it. There he met Wang Sun, who was sitting on a chair and already knew Su-Hwan. He remembered that they had participated in a special training together back then. At first glance, Su-Hwan seemed like an ordinary guy with no talent for controlling a dragon. But then something incredible happened. By a stroke of luck, he gained the favor of the master and became his disciple. That was truly an extraordinary fate. Wang Sun himself was a disciple at the Beast Mastery level. He and Su-Hwan had undergone special training together, and Wang Sun was actually the first participant to succeed in it. Beast Mastery was at a moderate level of danger. Wang Sun controlled the dangerous mountain lions in the mid-development phase and the moderately dangerous steel-armored creatures in the late-growth phase. Luo Chong was also at Master Zhouhe's residence, sitting on a chair as well. He thought that Su-Hwan was lucky and mentioned that Master Zhouhe himself had decided that Su-Hwan should be the captain of this year's duel competition. He could hardly believe that he had made this decision. Luo Chong was a disciple at the Beast Mastery level, coming from a wealthy family and having good talent. He fully controlled the dangerous species of the redfin beasts in the mature phase, as well as the moderately dangerous blood hunt wolves in the late-growth phase. Lena, a tamer at the Beast Mastery level, was currently the strongest fighter in terms of her abilities. She fully controlled the moderately dangerous species of the Ironwood Demon in the mature phase, as well as the moderately dangerous species of the Butterfly of Tranquility in the mature phase. She mentioned that last year Lu Han was the captain, even though he only reached 4th place and missed the qualification. Nevertheless, he was an exceptionally talented tamer. He just missed the opportunity to enter the secret area. Another beautiful woman then asked the group if they doubted the master's decision and mentioned that not even the teachers would dare to defy the master. She also said that they all knew Su-Hwan, but had to admit that they were wrong about him. Su Huan's first pet is actually a top-class danger-type creature, a dragon. In comparison, they don't have a single highly dangerous companion. She thought that this was a clear difference. Luo Chong couldn't believe the statement and shouted at her. Lin Fu then received Su Huan, who had now arrived after selling the black sphere fat, but unfortunately had to inform him that the lord of the castle was currently busy and couldn't come. However, he informed him that his teammates were already here. He opened the door and asked him to come in. Lin Fu emphasized that everyone should relax and chat with each other. He suggested that everyone could introduce themselves briefly. As an old man, he would now leave and not disturb the young people's meeting. The young people then wished the chief overseer a pleasant day, and he bid farewell and closed the door behind him. Wang Sun sat back on his chair and mockingly said to Su Huan that the captain had finally arrived. Lena mentioned once again, in the presence of our protagonist, that he only controls a single pet. Su Huan looked around the room and realized that there was a very bad atmosphere and the mood was not the best. The beautiful woman with lilac hair then questioned Su Huan, who suddenly turned to her. She introduced herself as Lin Yusen, seemed nervous, and said her name was Lin Yusen. A few years ago, she became a tamer and is now officially recognized. She owns 2 pets, a highly dangerous flower spirit tiger and a fully grown moderately dangerous electric swallowtail. Su Huan also introduced himself and mentioned that he officially became a tamer 2 months ago. His only pet is a dragon, a top-class danger type currently in the mid-development phase. Luo Chong suddenly stood up and expressed his admiration in a very condescending tone. He remarked that it was impressive that Su Huan became an official tamer within just 2 months and his first pet was a dragon, and not just any dragon, but a top-class danger type. It was truly remarkable. However, Su Huan was not fazed by such provocation and countered that Luo Chong was right and that he was definitely stronger than him. This made Luo Chong angry. He raised his hand and challenged Su Huan, saying that he would like to see for himself if what Su Huan claimed was true. He summoned his partner, a red-scaled creature resembling Groudon from Pokemon. As Groudon stood next to Luo Chong, emitting a red aura, Luo Chong arrogantly asked if Su Huan was scared now and still believed he was stronger. Su Huan and Lin Yusen remained calm at the other end of the room. Su Huan pondered and had to admit that his dragon had no chance against Groudon. But with the help of the old dragon book, he should be able to compensate for this difference in the competition. Su Huan bluffed and said that he had now examined his partner more closely and that he was indeed a very strong partner and not bad at all. However, he shrugged and also condescendingly remarked that his partner didn't seem to be at the level of a top-class danger type and wondered if Su Huan didn't have a partner with that status. Lin Yusen started laughing, but Luo Chong didn't appreciate the remark. Lena interrupted their power struggle and stated that this meeting was arranged by Master Zhou He, and Luo Chong should consider the consequences. Su Huan replied that they shouldn't worry and that Master Zhou He wouldn't punish them. They could freely summon their partners within the castle, but Su Huan was unsure how the security forces would react. Luo Chong looked very unhappy but had to admit that Su Huan was right. So he called back his partner Groudon. He threatened Su Huan, saying that he better not encounter him at the tournament in a month because he would seek revenge for humiliating him in front of everyone here. Su Huan replied that the idea of uniting as a team and fighting for glory in the Black Lantern Assembly didn't even exist for him. He turned away and didn't want to train with such teammates. He left and slammed the door behind him. Luo Chong couldn't believe how disrespectful Su Huan was acting and loudly questioned what his intention was with that action. Wang Sun calmly spoke up, saying that he shouldn't worry, as there would be opportunities in the future to hold him accountable. Su Huan climbed the narrow stairs and contemplated that according to Master Zhou He's instructions, they would have to go to the Bear Forest tomorrow. He sighed and wondered if his discontented teammates were a test imposed on him by Master Zhou He. Su Huan reached the end of the stairs and sat on the railing to continue pondering. He thought that once he successfully completed the special training in the Bear Forest, he would definitely be a recognized and honorable captain upon his return. After his thoughts calmed down a bit, he returned home. The sun was shining, and a few small white doves flew back and forth in front of his house. Shortly after, there was a knock on the door. It was a small group of soldiers, and their leader called for Su Huan, mentioning that he was Zhang Cheng, the captain of the Black Lantern. He was responsible for Su Huan's safety during the training in the Bear Forest. A voice from Su Huan's house told the soldiers that they could come in. Zhang Cheng was about to open a map to inform Su Huan about the meeting point in the Bear Forest. He pointed to a small settlement on the map and explained that their destination this time was a small settlement called Spiked Center, located on the edge of the Black Bear Forest. He further explained that the Spiked Center was only a little over 150 kilometers away in a straight line from the Black Lantern hideout. However, there was a repaired road only halfway between the two locations, which meant that the actual route was quite winding. Zhang Cheng also explained that, considering the possible dangers and uncontrollable factors along the way, it would probably take them 1 to 2 days to reach there. Su Huan understood everything and took note of all the information. Zhang Cheng then asked if he had any further questions. Su Huan declined and turned around, saying they could go. They drove through the jungle in a green SUV, and Su Huan examined the map more closely during the ride. He noticed that the meeting point of the Black Lantern was located in the Gray Wasteland Plain, as well as the places Screw City and Gray Bear Forest. He also realized that this was an extremely vast area, dotted with dozens of large gathering places, as well as several medium and small assembly points. There were also numerous refugee camps in the wilderness. As night fell, they arrived at a base, and Zhang Cheng informed that they had arrived and he would go over for the handover. They would rest and recover here tonight. Su Huan understood and thought it was a good plan. Outside the entrance of the castle gate, a soldier stood who identified himself as the deputy mayor of the Chanim city office and introduced himself as Andrew. He spoke to our group through a walkie-talkie. Zhang Cheng introduced himself and said he was the team leader of the 3rd unit of the 1st company of the Black Lantern. He also requested repairs and rest in the city. Andrew then requested an access code from our group. Zhang Cheng took out a small piece of paper and showed the code, after which the gate opened. The deputy mayor then welcomed our Captain Zhang and thanked them for their efforts and the long journey. Zhang Cheng praised Andrew and said he looked good. This time, he brought an important guest and requested accommodation for them. Andrew invited our group inside and said it was no big deal and they should leave it to him. The whole base looked like a beautiful rustic castle. A box opened, and Zhang Cheng informed Su Huan that all his animal control materials he had ordered were ready for him. He also assigned a soldier personally to Su Huan and thanked him for his effort and good cooperation. Su Huan raised his hand, and his finger glowed purple as he summoned his dragon partner. Suddenly, his half-grown dragon stood behind him, just as imposing and intimidating as the last time he summoned it. Su Huan stroked his dragon's head and realized that it must be hungry. He told it to quickly have something to eat. Zhang Cheng and the other soldier, who was now directly under Su Huan's command, were amazed as they saw his dragon in its full glory. They turned to the box they had just opened, wondering if the dragon could open all the food cans without any help. Once again, they were astonished as the dragon opened its mouth and emitted a kind of purple aura that levitated the cans into its mouth. In mid-air, the lids of the cans popped open, and the food flew into the dragon's mouth without the cans. Its eyes turned red, and it put even more energy into the battle of devouring all the food at once. When it had all the food in its mouth, it began to chew and gave the 2 soldiers a contemptuous look. The 2 soldiers looked at each other with astonished faces, wondering why it was looking at them so contemptuously. The soldier who was now directly under Su Huan's command informed him that unlike their assembly point in Tinam, there was no curfew at this location. The nightlife here was quite rich, and some of his comrades stationed in Tinam were planning to go to the Tinam bar at the foot of the mountain and have fun. The soldier asked Su Huan if he also wanted to be invited. However, Su Huan said that they could go and have fun, but he wouldn't accompany them. If possible, they should arrange a guide for him as he would like to wander around the city. At that moment, there was a knock on the door, and a little girl entered with some food in a bag. She asked if he was looking for a guide. Su Huan and his soldier turned hastily and surprised to her. She became a little panicked and mentioned her name, Lena, apologizing. She hadn't intended to eavesdrop on Su Huan and his group. But her grandfather, Andrew, had asked her to bring them a specialty from Tinam. The soldier reassured the little girl and confirmed that she was the granddaughter of Mayor Andrew. If Su Huan needed a guide, she would undoubtedly be the best choice. Su Huan leaned down a bit to the little girl and thanked her in advance for her help, which made her very happy. While strolling through the streets with the little girl, Su Huan noticed the distinctive houses of Chanam. Their architectural style differed significantly from that of the Black Lantern Castle. Most of them had triangular roofs and square or rectangular houses that created a three-dimensional effect. According to the tradition of the residents of Chanam, people liked to paint the exteriors of the houses in black and brown. Lena explained that there were hundreds of such characteristic houses throughout Cha Naim. The houses extended along the mountainside of Chanam, with shops and stores lining up alongside the residential buildings. The entire area was characterized by this unique architectural splendor that distinguished the community of Chanam. Beyond the mountainside of Chanam, there were other places and areas. One of these places was a small castle that occupied the ground like a stone fortress. Originally, this small castle was part of Chanam and even served as the town hall of the community. It was a landmark that played an important role in the lives of the residents of Chanam. Lena gently tugged on Su Huan's brown cloak and informed him that there would be a special beast battle at the Naim Coliseum tonight. She wondered if he would be interested. There was a noticeable curiosity and anticipation in her voice as she waited for his reaction. Filled with excitement, Su Huan asked Lena about the creature that would participate in this beast battle. His curiosity was unmistakable as he awaited her answer. Lena explained to Su Huan that the town guards and residents occasionally captured wild animals. These beasts would initially be used for duels in the Colosseum, and special events would be held to attract spectators. It was a way to pique people's interest and provide them with an exciting spectacle. Occasionally, even a Squirtle would fight against a wild Arbok. Lena continued to explain that if an animal gets injured and dies during the fight, it is not simply wasted. Instead, it is butchered, and the meat is provided to the townspeople. This practice served to ensure that any animal that lost its life in battle was put to meaningful use and served as food for the people. Lena proceeded by explaining that something special had happened today. Someone had gifted the Colosseum an extraordinary creature that had never been seen in Chanam before. This unique beast would fight against a fully grown wild tiger, and this battle had attracted a multitude of spectators. It was a highly significant event that drew people's attention and created excitement. Lena pointed with an outstretched arm to the impressive Colosseum, into which a large crowd of people was already streaming. The people were filled with anticipation and eagerness to secure a spot for this thrilling beast battle. Su Huan pondered about the wild tiger, which was considered an ordinary animal but had a very wild and unusual nature. He considered that observing this tiger in battle might be helpful for his work in dragon breeding. Perhaps he could learn something about the tiger's aggressive behavior and majestic roar. These thoughts occupied him as he prepared for the upcoming beast battle. With determination, Su Huan invited Lena to accompany him to take a look at the proceedings. His desire to witness the spectacle of the beast battle with his own eyes was clearly evident. Lena, too, was filled with enthusiasm and anticipation for the upcoming event. She couldn't wait to experience the spectacle of the beast battle firsthand. Their excitement was palpable as they hurried together to the Colosseum, ready to enjoy the thrilling spectacle. They purchased 2 tickets to gain access to the Colosseum. The lady at the counter looked at the 2 tickets and burst into laughter. She seemed surprised and wondered aloud who this handsome companion of Lena's was. She speculated if he was her brother and asked if he was new in the area. Curiously, she questioned why she hadn't seen him in Chanaim before. Her amused laughter accompanied her questions as she humorously commented on the situation. Lena reacted with annoyance to the counter lady's comments and asked her to stop talking nonsense. Her voice betrayed frustration over the inappropriate assumptions. Lena wanted to clarify that the lady had made false assumptions and that Suhwan was not her brother. Both Suhwan and the lady at the counter laughed awkwardly at the inappropriate comments. Lena took Suhwan's hand and urged him to quickly enter the interior of the Colosseum. She wanted to leave the embarrassing situation behind and focus entirely on the upcoming event. Together, they hurriedly made their way to experience the beast battle. Many of the people present recognized Lena and offered her a seat next to them. They enthusiastically called her name and invited her to sit beside them. It was evident that Lena was a well-known and respected personality in Chanaim. Lena responded with a grateful smile and cheerful laughter. She politely thanked the people for their invitation and explained that she couldn't accept the seat today. However, she assured them that she would gladly consider it next time. Her friendly demeanor and gratitude were reflected in her behavior as she politely declined the invitations. Suhwan noticed that Lena seemed to be quite well known in Chanaim. The fact that she was recognized by different people and warmly greeted suggested that she enjoyed a certain reputation within the community. Suhwan wondered what role Lena played in Chanaim and how she had gained such popularity. It was clear that she had a prominent presence in the town. A man approached Lena and Suhwan, directing his attention to Lena. He referred to her as a rare guest and inquired why she had found time today to visit Uncle Lad. His words indicated that Lena was not usually frequently seen in the presence of this uncle and that their meeting on this day was a special occasion. Suhwan was curious about the relationship between Lena and this Uncle Lad and what significance their meeting held. There seemed to be an interesting connection between them that he wanted to learn about. Lena addressed the man, referring to him as Uncle Lad. She made it clear to him that she was accompanied by an esteemed guest. Lena emphasized that Uncle Lad should ensure they were assigned the best seats in the Colosseum. She added that otherwise, legal actions could be initiated by her grandfather. Her words were firm and showed that Lena had certain expectations and insisted on being treated appropriately. It was evident that her family connections played a role in this demand. Lad, the man, contemplated whether Suhwan was the esteemed guest Lena spoke of. He scrutinized Suhwan more closely, trying to assess his identity and status. Lad took a moment to observe Suhwan's appearance and behavior, trying to find clues that might indicate who Suhwan was and what significance he held in Chanaim. It was obvious that Lad was curious and trying to learn more about the esteemed guest. Lad noticed that Suhwan wore a ring typically worn by a tamer. This clue led Lad to suspect that Suhwan might be a tamer, a person who tames and controls wild beasts. The ring was a distinctive feature that indicated Suhwan's abilities and his connection to the animal world. Lad was impressed by this discovery and realized that Suhwan could hold a special position and expertise in Chanaim. Lad recognized the importance of maintaining proper etiquette and not offending high-ranking personalities. In light of this realization, he directed his words to Suhwan and Lena, warmly welcoming them to the Chanaim Colosseum. It was evident that he acknowledged their significance and status and was eager to provide them a pleasant reception. As the host of the Colosseum, Lad made sure they felt welcomed and appreciated. Suhwan expressed his pleasure in meeting Lad, his words conveying politeness and respect as he extended his greetings. Suhwan was interested in building a positive relationship with his host and creating a pleasant atmosphere. People blew loudly into their horns to announce the start of today's show in the Colosseum. The Colosseum filled with the sound of horns blowing as the audience eagerly awaited the beginning of the day's show. At the center of the ring stood a remarkable silver-haired woman who addressed the audience and guests. With her charismatic presence, the silver-haired woman captured the attention of the spectators and guests in the Colosseum. Her presence alone exuded anticipation as she filled the atmosphere with her voice. In her words, the announcement of the upcoming grand battle resonated, the tension palpable in the air. It was as if she vocalized the thought that now was the moment to experience this breathtaking show. The audience was invited to take their seats and witness the thrilling battles up close. Additionally, it was subtly mentioned that there was a chance to try one's luck by betting on the participants. Her words were accompanied by a storm of applause as the atmosphere in the Colosseum buzzed with excitement. The silver-haired woman's announcement captured the attention of everyone present and heightened the anticipation in the audience. A tremendous cheer filled the entire audience as the words of the silver-haired woman reverberated throughout the Colosseum. Enthusiastic shouts and applause echoed from all sides, reflecting the anticipation and excitement of the spectators. The sound of the jubilant crowd permeated the stands, creating a captivating atmosphere characterized by a shared enthusiasm. The roar of the audience echoed, as the anticipation for the upcoming battle continued to rise. The crowd was full of expectation and energy, ready to witness the gripping fights to come and cheer on the athletes. The jubilation acted as an echo of the excitement that filled the Colosseum, creating an electrifying atmosphere that spread throughout the venue. The audience's reaction was a clear indication that they were fully prepared to enjoy the show and support the athletes. The cheers lingered as the performance was about to begin, filling the Colosseum with anticipation and euphoria. With a voice vibrating with excitement and enthusiasm, the silver-haired woman revealed the eagerly awaited arrival of the next participant. Her words made the audience tremble and heightened expectations for a stunning performance. In her announcement, she revealed that the city guard had sent a wild tiger, as everyone had expected. The description of the animal unleashed the audience's imagination, envisioning wild races, majestic strength, and untamed ferocity. Measuring over 3 meters in length and weighing over 600 cats, a vivid way to convey its impressive size, the wild tiger promised an imposing challenge for any opponent. The words of the silver-haired woman further heightened the excitement in the Colosseum. The introduction of such an impressive and powerful animal aroused the curiosity and enthusiasm of the audience. It was clear that they would witness an extraordinary battle that would captivate them. The expectations were high, and the anticipation for the upcoming duel reached its peak. With an elegant gesture, the silver-haired woman directed the audience's attention to an imposing cage that towered in the arena. The cage housed the wild tiger, now visible in all its splendor. Its majestic appearance captivated the onlookers. The tiger, with its shiny fur and an aura of untamed wildness, moved agilely within its confinement. Its muscles tensed as it scanned the surroundings with its intense eyes. The size and power of the animal were undeniable, and a sense of tension and awe filled the air. The audience held their breath, marveling at the presence of such a majestic creature. The intensity and fascination emanating from the wild tiger were palpable. The audience could hardly wait to witness the impending battle and experience the impressive abilities of the animal. Suddenly, the wild tiger let out its imposing roar, its eyes glowing in an intense red. Its thunderous sound reverberated through the arena. The animal's red eyes seemed to burn with an eerie intensity as it showcased its untamed nature. Its roar was a sign of its wild strength and untamed energy, waiting to be unleashed in battle. As the tiger roared within its cage, 2 spectators in the crowd began to converse. The first spectator expressed admiration for the majestic sight of the wild tiger, noting that it was in excellent condition. It exuded wildness and was truly an impressive beast. The other spectator agreed, explaining that the tiger had fallen into the trap of Aces, Chanam's finest hunter. Aces was renowned for his skill in capturing and taming wild animals. His reputation as a hunter was widely known, and it seemed he had also put this impressive creature on display. The 2 spectators exchanged their observations, captivated by the presence of the tiger and the stories about the hunter Aces. The tension in the arena grew as the audience prepared for the impending battle, eagerly anticipating the forces that would be unleashed in this epic duel. The impatience of the audience became more evident as they clamored for the fight to finally begin. The tension in the arena was palpable, and the calls for action grew louder and more urgent. Lena, too, could barely contain her excitement and was completely ecstatic. The anticipation for the upcoming battle was visible in her eyes, and she could hardly wait to witness the spectacle up close. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she gazed at the cage with the wild tiger. The tension in the air was tangible. She had always been fascinated by extraordinary creatures and thrilling fights, and this moment was a dream come true for her. The silver-haired hostess stepped into the center of the ring and called for silence from the audience. With an elegant gesture, she pointed to the evening's challenger. The silver-haired hostess gestured with an outstretched hand toward a side entrance from which a small cage was rising. All eyes were eagerly fixed on the ascending cage. The silver-haired hostess regarded the rising cage with curiosity. She couldn't help but admit that she had never seen such a peculiar creature before. The expectations were high, and she fervently hoped that this randomly captured little creature would provide a pleasant surprise for the audience. The tension in the Colosseum reached its peak as everyone eagerly awaited the secret hidden within the cage. A guard took the small cage and tossed it forcefully into the ring. The cage landed with a dull thud on the ground. With a loud bang, the lid of the cage fell off, revealing a small yellow creature that curiously raised its head from the cage. The little fellow, resembling a mix of Psyduck and Pikachu, seemed somewhat dazed. Yellow stars circled around its head as it slowly regained composure. As the small yellow duck regained consciousness, it suddenly noticed the wild tiger approaching, hungry and threatening. Its eyes widened in fright, and it hastily tried to come up with an escape plan. The little yellow duck made a bold leap out of its cage, attempting to flee. Its behavior surprised the silver-haired woman, who wondered why the little being didn't attack. The audience watched intently as the unpredictable events unfolded. The little duck was panicking, tears welling up in its eyes as it desperately tried to climb the iron gate of the Colosseum. Its tiny claws grasped the metal bars as it struggled to find a way out. The crowd burst into laughter, amused by the unexpected escape attempt of the little duck. The unusual scene provided good entertainment and captured the attention of all the spectators. They were eager to see how the duck would continue its escape attempts and evade the wild tiger. The atmosphere in the Colosseum was filled with anticipation and tension as the little duck bravely attempted to climb the gate and escape its dangerous pursuer. Su Huan was astonished by the appearance of the small duck. He had expected to see an imposing or dangerous creature, but instead, before him stood a tiny and cute creature. The stark contrast between the little duck and the wild tiger surprised him deeply. Meanwhile, Lena also laughed along with the other spectators at the unexpected escape attempts of the duck. The famished tiger roared loudly, focusing all its attention on the small yellow duck. With a swift leap, it tried to reach the duck, while the duck desperately searched for an exit. The little duck screamed in panic, and with astonishing agility, it skillfully dodged the tiger's attack. With a mighty leap, it escaped the tiger's claws and soared through the air. The duck's evasive maneuver seemed to further fuel the tiger's bloodlust. Angry and filled with aggression, the tiger roared even louder, its eyes glowing with fierce determination. It was now even more determined to hunt down the duck and secure its prey. Its powerful paws pounded on the ring's floor as it slowly approached the duck. Trembling with fear, the little duck lay completely defenseless at the other end of the arena. It desperately tried to find a way out, while the tiger relentlessly closed in. The first spectator marveled at the impressive speed of the little duck. He could hardly believe how quickly it could escape from the wild tiger. The second spectator was surprised by the sudden turn of events. He had expected the duck to be killed by the tiger, but its clever escape had caught him off guard. Both spectators were captivated by the drama unfolding and couldn't take their eyes off the exciting scene in the ring. A young boy in the audience curiously turned to his mother and asked what kind of strange yellow duck it was. He mentioned that he had never seen this Pokémon before in his Pokédex. As Su Huan held his chin and pondered, he recalled the records in the ancient Dragon Codex. It mentioned 4 rare creatures referred to as the 4 gods. These beings were extremely powerful and existed mostly in rumors and legends. Su Huan wondered if the small yellow duck he was currently witnessing in the battle could possibly be one of these rare species. The sounds of the ongoing fights in the background heightened his curiosity, and he decided to remain attentive and find out if it was indeed one of these legendary creatures. Su Huan continued to contemplate and recalled the precise names of the 4 rumored species. They were the mystery type, the magic type, the miracle type, and the mythology type. Each of these species had its own unique characteristics and abilities that made them powerful and mysterious beings. Su Huan was convinced by his realization that the little yellow duck must possess extraordinary abilities. The speed and agility it displayed went far beyond what normal animals could achieve. He was curious to learn more about its true nature and possible powers. Su Huan decided to continue observing attentively and seize every opportunity to uncover more about this mysterious creature. Su Huan further contemplated and concluded that the small yellow duck must belong to the mystical race. The golden mark on its forehead could indicate special significance and possibly a connection to the mystical abilities of the species. The small yellow duck continued to do its best to escape from the wild tiger and the arena. Despite its small size and apparent vulnerability, it displayed astonishing agility and speed. With each jump and evasive maneuver, it tried to stay one step ahead of the tiger. Panicked and with tears in its eyes, the little yellow duck ran desperately through the arena. While Su Huan entertained his thoughts about the treasure-hunting creature, the little duck continued its escape in distress. It skillfully leaped over obstacles, twisted in the air, and attempted to stay ahead of the tiger. Its movements were swift and precise as it maneuvered skillfully through the arena, evading the hungry predator. Though visibly exhausted and fearful, it did not give up and fought for its survival. Meanwhile, Su Huan became aware that this encounter with the little duck was an extremely rare opportunity. Treasure-hunting creatures were known for their ability to track down and consume treasures. Their trails usually led to dangerous ruins and hidden locations. Su Huan couldn't believe that he would encounter one of these rare creatures here. It was a unique chance to learn about this mysterious being and observe its abilities. Despite his engrossing thoughts, he couldn't help but follow the escape of the little duck with bated breath and be inspired by its impressive agility and determination. He decided not to let this opportunity slip away and closely observe the treasure-hunting creature. Su Huan turned to Lina, who reacted with astonishment and looked at him. Su Huan pointed at the small yellow duck and asked if it would be possible to acquire this extraordinary creature. His gaze was filled with interest and fascination as he eagerly awaited Lina's response. Lina explained to Su Huan that the small creature had already been sold to Uncle Lad, the chief winemaker of the Chonam winery. Uncle Lad was the owner of the Chonam Coliseum and thus the owner of the animals that performed there. Su Huan asked Lina if she would go with him to Uncle Lad. He hoped that together they could find a solution to acquire the small creature. Su Huan and Lina entered Uncle Lad's office, where he explained to them that it was unfortunately not possible to fulfill their request. He explained that according to the Colosseum's rules, the fight couldn't be stopped unless one of the parties was injured, lost combat power, or even lost their life. Uncle Lad regretted that he couldn't fulfill their wish but emphasized the importance of adhering to the rules. Lina clutched Uncle Lad's arm and tried to persuade him with her sweet voice and childish appearance to make an exception. She pleaded with him to find a way to save the little treasure-hunting creature and provide it a safe home. Lina emphasized the importance of showing compassion and consideration, stating that the life of the small creature was as valuable as that of any other creature. She hoped that her words would touch Uncle Lad's heart and that he could find a solution that would be fair to everyone. Lina attempted to convince Uncle Lad with a surprise and approached him again. She reminded him of a previous deal where she had sold him the old warehouse with 2,000 steel pieces. With an innocent look, she asked if this amount of steel would be enough to redeem the treasure-hunting creature. Lena hoped that this offer would persuade Uncle Lad to reconsider and make an exception. Uncle Lad deeply regretted the situation and asked Su-hwan if he was genuinely interested in owning the little beast since, according to his information, it wasn't a rare species. He emphasized that the Colosseum had strict rules and regulations that had to be followed. He understood Lena's compassion and her desire to save the treasure-hunting creature, but he stressed the need to ensure the safety and smooth operation of the combat game. Making an exception without jeopardizing the integrity of the Colosseum and its events was challenging. Uncle Lad tried to calm Lena and explained to her empathetically that even his father, Old Lad, would never have violated the rules of the Colosseum. Su-hwan spoke to Uncle Lad, pointing out that he might have concerns about the financial impact of canceling the fight. Uncle Lad politely responded that in this case, it wasn't solely a question of money. Su-hwan explained that he had certain reasons but didn't want Uncle Lad to break the rules. However, he had an idea and asked if Uncle Lad believed it would work. An announcement came over the Colosseum speakers, stating that due to special circumstances, the upcoming beast fight might have to be cancelled. The audience became angry. And the atmosphere in the Colosseum quickly deteriorated. They began protesting loudly, expressing their dissatisfaction that they had bought tickets and were eager to watch the fight. They threatened that they would never come again if the fight was cancelled. The discontent and unrest among the audience were palpable. At that moment, Lad took the microphone and addressed the crowd. He asked the audience for understanding and patience, emphasizing that he understood their disappointment but that there were special reasons that necessitated the cancellation of the fight. He promised to refund the audience double the ticket price to compensate for the inconvenience. Lad tried to appease the agitated mood and persuade the audience that canceling the fight was the best decision. Furthermore, Lad explained to the agitated audience that despite the cancellation of the beast fight, there would still be a spectacular show in the arena. He assured them that there would be an exciting showdown that would meet their expectations. Lad stressed that he wanted to make the best out of the situation and provide captivating entertainment for the audience. He asked for their trust and promised that they would experience an unforgettable performance that would justify the value of their tickets. Lad announced to the disgruntled audience that Su-hwan would enter the arena as the new challenger. A surprising silence filled the room as Su-hwan slowly entered the arena. The audience came alive and began cheering in excitement. The unexpected confrontation between man and beast ignited their enthusiasm. Such a fight had not taken place in many years, and the audience was fascinated by the unusual situation. The tiger roared loudly, its eyes still filled with red rage. Its bloodlust seemed unchanged, driving it forward. The tiger leaped toward Su-hwan with great speed, its massive body suspended in the air. The audience held their breath as they saw the imminent danger. But Su-hwan just stood there. The audience panicked as the tiger lunged toward Su-hwan. Some closed their eyes in fear. The tension in the arena reached its peak as people anxiously watched the outcome of the dangerous fight. Lena cried out in panic, expressing her concern. She encouraged Su-hwan to win the fight and stand his ground against the tiger. Her words were urgent and supportive. Su-hwan wore a confident expression on his face as he extended his hand and called out the name of his dragon. Suddenly, his ring began to shimmer with a bright lilac hue, and a powerful energy surrounded him. From Su-hwan's ring emerged a large, blue dragon. With a mighty beat of its wings and a loud roar, it confronted the attacking tiger, stopping it abruptly in its tracks. The tiger, its eyes no longer filled with red, trembled and slowly backed away. The presence of the mighty dragon deeply impressed him. Step by step, the tiger retreated, never taking its eyes off the dragon. The threat it had posed earlier seemed to have vanished, and it was forced to yield to the overwhelming presence of the dragon. The audience watched in awe as the unexpected encounter unfolded, amazed by the power of the dragon that subdued the wild tiger. The crowd cheered loudly, thrilled by the appearance of the mighty dragon and recognizing the tamer who controlled it. They were impressed by the rarity of this dangerous species and remembered that the last tamer had appeared in Cha Naim 3 months ago. The audience was overwhelmed by the significance of this day and delighted by the exceptional performance of the tamer and his dragon. The atmosphere in Cha Naim was filled with excitement and enthusiasm. Su Huan turned towards the balcony where Lad and Lena stood, cheering with joy that he had survived the fight. With a broad grin, he raised his hand and gave them a thumbs up. His laughter reached them, expressing his satisfaction and the success of his plan. It was a moment of triumph and relief that he wanted to share with them. Uncle Lad was amazed that Su Huan, despite his young age, was already able to tame such a dangerous creature. He was glad that they could resolve their matter so well and that Su Huan was so cooperative. He also noticed that Lena looked very happy, as they had come to an agreement among themselves, which was beneficial for all parties involved. Su Huan stood in the arena with his dragon, ready for the battle. Both of them faced the wild tiger as the wind whistled through the arena. Su Huan commanded his dragon to appear menacing. And that's exactly what it did, emanating an eerie aura that further frightened the tiger. In response, the tiger raised a sign pleading with Su Huan to spare him and surrendered. Suddenly, Su Huan shifted his attention elsewhere, surprising the tiger. The little yellow duck was still panicking in the arena, running back and forth. Su Huan wondered about the age of the little duck and at which stage of development it was. He concluded that due to its size, it was likely at a low stage but was impressed by its speed and reflexes. He ordered his dragon to attack and catch the small duck with a swift strike. The dragon leaped forward and flew towards the duck at high speed, but it was even faster, managing to escape. Su Huan commanded his dragon to utilize its agility to increase the speed and catch up to the duck. The dragon complied, fueled by the desire to capture the little duck. The ambition grew stronger. The dragon once again flew at maximum speed, trailing behind the duck, ready to capture it. It extended its claws and nearly caught it, but the little yellow duck managed to evade the attack and leaped away at the last moment. Su Huan then ordered his dragon to appear threatening, intending to paralyze the duck. The dragon swirled a large amount of purple energy around itself, visible even outside the Colosseum. The audience in the stands was astonished as they witnessed the power of a tamer, and they were captivated by it. However, they realized that the city's defenses would not withstand such power if such a beast were to attack the city. The little duck was scared and cried as it felt threatened. The dragon loomed over the duck, prepared to catch it with its mighty claws. Its eyes glowed red, reflecting the ambition it felt to finally capture it. It caught the duck and held it up in front of Su Huan, who asked the duck if it could no longer run away. The little duck was sad and lowered its head. After Su Huan had accompanied Uncle Lad and Lena back to Lad's office, Uncle Lad praised Su Huan. He had never seen such a young tamer who could tame and control such a dangerous and powerful beast. Su Huan, holding the duck in a small cage, thanked him for the compliment and asked Uncle Lad how this little duck was actually captured. After all, the duck was very fast and agile. And not everyone could catch such a swift beast. Chuckling, Uncle Lad asked if he meant that duck and then explained that Cha Naim plays an important role as a supply point along the southern border as a vassal of the Black Lantern Castle. Furthermore, Cha Naim is renowned for its exceptional wine production. The brewery in Cha Naim initially caught the attention of the Black Lantern Castle and was eventually accepted as a vassal. The experienced brewmaster Kleiman from Cha Naim had captured the little duck. Uncle Lad further explained that he had then learned from brewmaster Kleiman that the little duck kept sneaking into the cellar and drinking the good wine intended for the castle. However, since the duck kept eluding him, he sought the help of 2 apprentices and waited for 7 days to outsmart the duck and finally catch it when it had fallen asleep drunk inside a barrel of wine. Uncle Lad laughed as he told the story and looked at the little duck. Su Huan was amazed that it was not surprising for him to be able to catch a treasure hunter who possessed a mysterious power to protect itself and sneak into anywhere unnoticed. However, He was astonished that this treasure hunter duck was so foolish as to get drunk and let itself be caught. Lena was also surprised, and the duck felt somewhat embarrassed. After Lena had dropped off Suhwan in front of his house again, he thanked her and said that he owed her a favor. Lena replied that she was happy to help and that it wasn't a big deal. She also mentioned that she had heard that Suhwan had somewhere to go tomorrow and advised him to rest. Suhwan decided that the next time his comrades came to town, he would bring something interesting for Lena. As Suhwan bid farewell and entered his house, he placed the cage with the duck on the table and asked if everything was okay and why it had cried so much. He explained to the duck that if he hadn't saved her in the Colosseum, she would probably be dead now. The duck stopped crying at that point. Suhwan contemplated while stroking the duck that the bars of the cage were not particularly thick, and his dragon could easily break them if it were her size. He realized that this duck was not particularly aggressive. He gently stroked her with a finger and pondered how he could earn her trust and form a contract with her. He also wondered if the ancient dragon book might contain information about her preferred food. He decided to let the duck go a little hungry so that after a few days, she would eat whatever he offered her. Suhwan liked his idea, but the duck reacted startled by his self-assurance and the fact that he would endorse such an idea. Suddenly, Suhwan's ring lit up. He noticed that amidst all the stress in his little excursion, he had completely forgotten to feed his dragon, which it now made apparent. Suhwan went to one of the countless crates filled with provisions that stood at the end of his room. He took one of them and placed it on the table while the little duck watched eagerly to see what he was up to. Carefully, he opened the cans and poured the contents into a large wooden bowl. The duck was surprised and excited by what she saw. Suhwan used a spoon to mix the food carefully, ensuring it was well blended. The duck watched him fascinated, and her mouth slowly watered as she watched him prepare the meal for his dragon. Suhwan wiped the sweat off his forehead and decided to give his dragon 3 times the amount so that it would last until the next evening when they would reach the next stronghold. When the food was ready, the duck still looked at it fascinated. She was truly hungry. And drool was already dripping from her mouth due to her greed. Suhwan raised his hand, and his ring glowed purple again, summoning his dragon to appear beside him. With enthusiasm, the dragon eagerly pounced on the delicious food, burying its head in the bowl to satisfy its hunger. The little duck shook the grid-like bars and also wanted something for itself. When she realized the food wasn't meant for her, the duck started crying and expressed her disappointment. Suhwan noticed this and looked at his new little partner, who was dramatically acting in the cage. He asked the duck if she also wanted to eat, to which she nodded her head, indicating that she was hungry too. Suhwan took a large spoonful of food from the wooden bowl and offered it to the little duck. He explained to her that she could also eat if she wanted to. After sniffing it initially, the duck greedily started eating and almost submerged her entire head into the bowl. While Suhwan fed the little duck, his dragon was amazed that she received such treatment while he had never experienced such attention. Suhwan was relieved that the small yellow treasure hunter duck unexpectedly ate the dragon's food, and he no longer had to let it starve to form a contract with her. When the duck finished her spoonful, she looked up at Suhwan expectantly, indicating that she wanted more. Suhwan asked her if she wanted more while he turned around and noticed that his dragon had already finished everything. It seemed like the dragon was afraid to share its food further with the little duck. Suhwan addressed the issue and told his dragon that he should share in the future. The dragon didn't seem particularly pleased and held up a small sign asking if Suhwan had just said something. Suhwan playfully tapped his dragon's forehead with the spoon and explained that he was now a big brother and should behave accordingly. He also suggested that they should have a nice dinner together as a trio that evening. The next morning, Lena stood on the city wall and waved goodbye to Suhwan and his companions. They were already on their way to the next station in a dark green SUV. This station was a medium-sized meeting point compared to Chanam and thus much larger. The city was characterized by a large smelting furnace where mainly iron, copper, and aluminum were produced. During the drive, Su-hwan continued to look at his small clipboard and contemplate his next steps. He continued conversing with Cheng, who hinted at some information about their next station but couldn't reveal much. Su-hwan would understand what it was about once they arrived. Several hours later, the group reached their destination and saw how large the city was in the last few meters before entering. Several chimneys adorned the cityscape, emitting copious amounts of smoke. After Su-hwan got out and arrived in Rivet Town, he felt surrounded by an industrial atmosphere, as if he were in a massive corporation. The burnt smell of coal and steel production lingered in the air and filled Su-hwan's nostrils. Upon their arrival, Cheng and Su-hwan immediately headed to the city center to participate in a management meeting. It was there that Su-hwan also realized the information Cheng didn't want to disclose during the drive. Rivet Town had 1155 inhabitants and was more or less a human shield. On the surface, Rivet Town appeared to be a small to medium-sized independent city located in the wilderness of the wastelands. In reality, it was a vassal of the Black Lantern and an important production site for metal and crops. The minerals mined in the city were actually located in the Grizzly Bear Forest. It was impossible for ordinary people to mine there. The reason why Rivet Town could successfully extract a large amount of ore from the Grizzly Bear Forest shocked Su-hwan even more. The entire Grizzly Forest was actually the aura of Master Zhou, more precisely, the aura of one of his pets. Master Zhou could control to some extent all the bears in the entire Grizzly Forest by controlling the pets. In the room of the administration committee, Su-hwan looked out of the window and enjoyed a glass of red wine with his comrade. He reflected on how he had done everything to further enhance his master's reputation, but he had not expected his teacher's power and wisdom to be even deeper and more unfathomable than he had ever imagined. According to the information provided by the administration committee, there were currently 4 tamers in the bear forest. Among them was He Deng, an experienced professional and the strongest of them. But the others were also very strong, above average. Later, when Su-hwan was back in his room, his dragon was sleeping on the floor behind him, and he was interacting with the small, cute yellow duck that he now let out of its cage without worry. For a tamer, his beast partner was much more than just a source of income and a status symbol. He wondered if the other tamers would recognize his new friend as a mystical treasure-hunting beast. Su-hwan then asked the little duck if she wanted to be his partner. To which she looked slightly puzzled. He told her to forget the question and instead eat something, promising to come back to the question later. At the mention of food, his dragon woke up and raised its head, startling Su-hwan and causing him to turn around. Both the dragon and the duck were then treated to a hearty meal that could be heard outside. After Su-hwan learned that there were 4 other extremely powerful tamers in the bear forest, he changed his plans and decided to stay in the city for 3 more days. The reason for the delay was simple: he wanted to find a way to bond with his Niffler and establish a connection with it so that he could keep it along with his dragon in his ring. But this endeavor was not as easy as he imagined. Every time Su-hwan attempted to bond with his Niffler, that connection would subconsciously break and the Niffler would reject him. Even after Su-hwan searched through the old dragon book for a solution or a clue, he found nothing in that regard. Therefore, he decided to try an unusually foolish idea. Since the Niffler was a treasure-seeking creature, he wanted to take it along to find a treasure. But that, too, was not as simple as it sounded. Su-hwan was somewhat confused. He yelled at the little Niffler and asked where the treasure was. He also asked why it chased after everything, like butterflies, female dogs, and other animals, and whether it was going through an infantile phase because of that. The little Niffler looked ashamed and glanced away. Su-hwan then gave the Niffler a stern look and said that he must have been mistaken, and that the Niffler wasn't such a great legendary creature after all, but rather a trash creature that he could feed to his dragon. The little Niffler was frightened and squealed. With sweet concentration, the little yellow Niffler emitted a yellow aura. It pointed into the air, and Su-hwan had hoped that it had found something valuable. However, when he turned around, all he saw was a bar, and he felt quite embarrassed. Therefore, He asked his Niffler again in doubt whether it was certain that there was a treasure in that bar. The Niffler also nodded ashamedly and emphasized that it didn't think it could be wrong. Su Huan pondered and wondered if this time he really had found a treasure, recalling the mysterious energy that had left his body. He thought for a moment and then grinned as if he had a plan. Su Huan grabbed the Niffler by the collar and lifted it up, telling his supposedly legendary Niffler that he didn't believe it because it could be another fake, and that they should just go back. He also said that the Niffler would become breakfast for his dragon so that he wouldn't have any more problems with it in the future. Panicked, the Niffler stuck to its statement and continued wagging one of its paws toward the bar where the treasure was supposed to be. Therefore, Su Huan asked it again if it was sure and if it really believed there was a treasure in the bar. He also asked it again if it really wanted to go there. The Niffler nodded and confirmed with some sweet sounds. However, Su Huan still clung to his plan and asked so obviously, which made the Niffler uneasy and fearful, why it should help him find the treasure. As a result, the Niffler once again failed to understand Su Huan's true intention and became panicked and fearful. This made the little man very sad. Su Huan continued to toy with it and said that he actually wanted to perform good deeds, but he explained to the Niffler that he could only help it if it did one thing for him. The Niffler was shocked once again. And it thought of very suggestive things afterwards. Su Huan asked the Niffler why it looked so concerned and explained to it that the favor it would owe him would only involve a spiritual connection. The Niffler agreed and extended its fist to seal the agreement. Su Huan also extended his fist, and their knuckles gently touched, confirming their arrangement. Both of them were delighted and ready to search for their little treasure. Without an emotional foundation, it is impossible to establish a spiritual connection overnight. And even if it were to succeed, such a contract can easily be invalidated and dissolved. But building a genuine spiritual connection is different. As long as one does not resist oneself, it is only a matter of time until a spiritual bond is formed. In the bar, a bartender was already busy shaking something while conversing with a lovely lady in a red dress. Su Huan and his Niffler entered the bar. The bartender immediately greeted them and offered them a drink. However, Su Huan told him that he had only come to look around and that the bartender didn't need to pay any further attention to him. The bartender was somewhat annoyed and wondered why someone would come to a bar in the afternoon just to observe. He spoke with a few men in suits and explained to them that Su Huan looked fairly new in town and might be one of the mercenaries from outside or at least have some connection to them. For now, they should remain calm and observe what he was up to. The Niffler pointed to an old ball, prompting Su Huan to ask if it was really certain that this object was the one they were seeking. He asked if it was truly a treasure-seeking creature or more of a garbage-seeking creature, which irritated the Niffler a bit. Suddenly, the ball changed its shape and turned into a toilet. Su Huan immediately noticed this and was shocked when he realized that this stone was indeed a transmutation color stone, as described in the old dragon book. The journey of taming beasts and transforming them into dragons was full of hardships, and the demand for evolution materials was very high. The transmutation color stone is the primary material needed for such a transformation into a dragon. Su Huan would have never thought that he would stumble upon such a rare item in a place like this. With tears of joy, he caressed his partner and secretly expected nothing less from such a mysterious existence. Suddenly, the bartender approached Su Huan angrily for no apparent reason. He asked why he was standing there and whether he was a customer or had come to cause trouble. Su Huan was surprised but then turned around and asked if he could buy the stone, inquiring about the price. The bartender was also somewhat puzzled as Su Huan asked if he could buy the stone. He wondered why this stone, specifically. His boss had found it in the wilderness of the ruins while searching for great beasts. Nevertheless, apart from the deformations he assumed, it appeared completely useless in his eyes and rather to be considered a landscape stone that one would place as decoration somewhere. However, the bartender didn't want to say that, fearing it would cast a negative light on the business and give other guests the impression that their establishment lacked class and style. Therefore, he told Su Huan that this stone was extremely precious and that he couldn't afford it anyway. He made Su Huan an offer to treat him to a drink and then he should simply leave the establishment. But Su Huan and the Niffler just smiled and didn't give up. They said that money was not a problem, and the bartender should just make an offer. The bartender, who quickly became angry again, pointed at the stone and said he could give it to Su Huan for 10,000 gold coins. Su Huan took out a few gold coins, flicked them onto the table, and said that the deal was done then. The bartender had to swallow hard as he saw that Su Huan was simply willing to pay the requested price. After the bartender went back to his friends in suits, Su Huan followed him and approached them while they whispered. He raised his hand and said that he would immediately pay them the money, but they would have to take the stone directly to the administrative building. As he raised his hand and said this, the bartender recognized Su Huan's signet ring. Quickly, he and his friends threw themselves to the ground, bowing and apologizing for not recognizing him immediately. Additionally, they agreed to deliver the stone and corrected the price to 1 gold coin. Su Huan told him that he had exaggerated his role as a bartender and that it wasn't his job to control the bar as he saw fit. That was the task of other people, but he would overlook it this time. The bartender and his friends understood this and promised never to act as if they owned the bar again or treat guests based on their appearance. After that, Su Huan left the bar and closed the door behind him. There are two situations that can occur when a tamer wants to tame a beast. The first is that the tamer is so strong that they can simply overpower the beast. The second possibility is that the beast voluntarily submits and wants to be tamed on its own. Su Huan realized that the Niffler he had found belonged more to the second type. He and his little sweet duck were very happy when they had the stone at home. However, to achieve his goal of taming the Niffler in just 3 days, he had to go on a treasure hunt throughout the city and solve a lot of puzzles related to the treasures. Nevertheless, he wanted to make the Niffler happy during their treasure hunt and bought him loads of delicious food. Even in the evenings, Su Huan tried to strengthen his connection with the Niffler and even played the role of a loving mother by reading him a few bedtime stories. He told the creature about delicious meals and many stories where they would explore secret places and ruins together, finding piles of gold and jewels so that the treasures would accumulate. Afterward, the little sweet Niffler was so excited that he saw Su Huan as an angel and desperately wanted to accompany him on his adventures to eat lots of delicious things together and find plenty of gold and treasures. But that wasn't all Su Huan did to make the little Niffler more dependent on him. He also often went to the training grounds in the backyard of the administrative building with his beasts. Su Huan wanted to further train the speed of his little yellow friend. So, they trained together every day with his dragon, focusing on speed. In the training, his dragon chased the little Niffler. With red eyes and full concentration, the dragon chased the fearful, panicked little duck, desperately trying to escape. But the dragon raced at insane speed behind the Niffler. However, all of it was in vain as the dragon was too fast and had superior training time. It didn't take long before the dragon caught the little duck. And after the dragon had pushed the little duck so hard during the training, Su Huan appeared as her savior and redeemer, stopping the dragon to save the little Niffler. He stood in front of his dragon, raised his hand up, and spoke like a last-second savior, saying, "Stop." Naturally, this confused the dragon since it had only scared the little Niffler so much based on Su Huan's instructions. Su Huan commanded his dragon to release the little duck and simultaneously asked why he would always bully her and why he couldn't be gentler with her. The dragon became more and more confused, secretly wondering if it wasn't just a few minutes ago that Su Huan had forced him to be so rough and aggressive. But Su Huan's plan worked. By rescuing the Niffler from the dragon, the little creature's trust and gratitude toward Su Huan continued to grow. Crying, the little sweet yellow Niffler jumped into Su Huan's arms and even called him Mama. Su Huan comforted him and lovingly told him not to cry, expressing his admiration for him. The dragon, on the other hand, was somewhat skeptical, but Su Huan's plan to gain trust worked perfectly. After 3 days of training and treasure hunting, Su Huan then set off to the bear forest. It was beautiful weather. And as always, he was traveling in an olive green SUV. They drove along a narrow road into a fir forest. His companion explained to him that it was suspected that Master Su had crossed the outer part of the grizzly bear forest and reached the inner circle by crossing this river. However, someone would come to pick him up for the further travel route. Su Huan was curious and eagerly awaited who would come to accompany him further. Red paws ran on the forest floor, and our group looked up in astonishment. They saw a large red tiger leaping into the air and roaring. On this tiger sat a person. When the tiger landed in front of them, a pretty woman with red hair, who was riding the tiger, spoke to them. She asked if he was Su Huan and introduced herself as He Ju. She was the resident tamer of this bear forest, but he could simply call her Sister Ju. Her partner was a high-risk beast, a red flame tiger. Su Huan's two companions saluted and greeted Ju, and Ju greeted them in return. Ju dismounted from her tiger and said that the castle owner had already informed her through a medium-range communicator that he would visit the bear forest for a 1-month training. She knew he would come but didn't expect him to arrive today as she had anticipated him a little earlier. Su Huan apologized for being slightly late, explaining that he had been caught up with some things. Sister Ju now turned to her two comrades from Su Huan and informed them that they could now return after completing their mission. One of the comrades asked what should be done with the luggage they brought. Sister Ju gently touched her small blue jewel hanging around her neck and called her monkey over. Suddenly, a large, muscular silverback gorilla appeared by her side. Su Huan immediately recognized it as an extremely dangerous species that had been bred to perfection. Unfortunately, Su Huan did not realize that this gorilla had already overcome the constraints of its species and had evolved further. Sister Ju instructed her gorilla to take the luggage to the base. The gorilla understood the command and nodded. The two comrades showed the monkey where the luggage was and led it there. Sister Ju explained that there was still a short distance to be covered to reach the base and suggested to Su Huan that he could ride on her tiger so they could go there together and he wouldn't have to walk. However, Su Huan said it was not necessary as he would use his own dragon for the journey. He raised his hand with the ring in the air and summoned his dragon. Sister Ju realized that Su Huan deserved to be the proud student of the teacher and admired his remarkable achievement of being the first to tame a dragon, which belonged to the most dangerous species and had a very high level and was not easy to train. She was excited to see what Su Huan and his dragon were capable of and challenged him to keep up with her. While the muscular gorilla carried the luggage, Sister Ju ran ahead and explained that fighting and riding were two different things, and she was curious to see how Su Huan would fare at riding. Su Huan jumped onto the back of his dragon and gave it instructions, which it followed. The dragon had a determined look in its eyes and was full of enthusiasm to win this race. Su Huan asked his dragon what it was planning as he noticed it was getting a bit too carried away. Suddenly, the dragon took off at full speed, and Su Huan nearly fell backward but managed to hold on. He was thrilled by the speed of his dragon. Sister Ju and Su Huan continued riding into the fir forest. There were tall and small firs, and in the background, mountains adorned the horizon. It was slowly becoming late afternoon when the group reached the base. It looked like a castle with many coats of arms and flags. Sister Ju knocked on the large castle gate and called for someone to open it. A man with an afro opened the door and told Sister Ju that he had already told her several times to knock more lightly, as her knocking could bring down half of the gate. Brother Afro opened the gate annoyed and suggested that next time she should just bring the key to make things easier since he was busy and didn't always feel like opening the gate for her. Moreover, she wouldn't have to knock so hard anymore. Sister Ju became angry and asked Brother Afro what he was so busy with. She made it clear to him that his task was to protect the city and asked what he was doing at the base and how he dared to leave his post while Chief Su was absent. Brother Afro apologized ashamedly and explained that he made a mistake and was always ready to open the door for her. He respectfully addressed Sister Ju as Master. As a punishment, Sister Ju lightly tapped him on the back of his head again to show him who was in charge and what position he held. She also ordered Brother Afro, whose real name was Shueyu, to fetch Su Huan's luggage and prepare his accommodation. Su Huan found the way they spoke to each other somewhat strange. Sister Ju explained to Su Huan that currently, only she and Brother Afro were in the Bear Forest base. Sister Ju further explained that originally there were several sergeants stationed at the base who performed various tasks. Unfortunately, the sergeants couldn't withstand the harsh environment and intense sun in the Bear Forest, and they requested transfers one after another. They had to transfer the remaining housework to their companions. Sister Ju also mentioned that the director of the base, Mr. Su Lo, had set out a few days ago to track down a dangerous creature in the forest. She further explained that another trainer was supposed to be here to pick up Su Huan and accompany him for a special training to become the chief. However, since Su Huan had a few days' delay, the trainer went alone to train. Su Huan apologized again for causing delays and disrupting all the plans. Sister Ju told him it was alright and suggested that they should first stand outside the gate and then go to her room to continue talking. Su Huan felt a bit overwhelmed and didn't know exactly what Sister Ju wanted from him. When they arrived at Sister Ju's room, Su Huan saw many animal heads hanging on the wall like trophies. There were large and small heads, open and closed mouths, and sharp or less sharp teeth visible. Su Huan was shocked by the animal heads and felt as if he was in a trance when he saw Sister Ju's trophy wall. She asked Su Huan if he had come to his senses or if he planned to continue staring so foolishly at her wall. Su Huan turned around and explained to her that he was not accustomed to such a decoration style and was very fascinated by the fact that she had so many trophies displayed. Sister Ju asked Su Huan if he still believed she was a delicate lady who couldn't defend herself. If he believed that, he would be the next one to end up on the wall. This made Su Huan somewhat panicked, and he didn't know what to say and how to interpret what Sister Ju said. Then Sister Ju said it was all a joke, and she just wanted to tease him a little. She asked Su Huan if he definitely didn't know what his training with Master Lin in the Bear Forest would be about. She explained to him that it was normal and an unwritten rule that people wouldn't be informed in advance about what they would train here. Furthermore, she explained that normally, the tamers of the Black Lantern would first receive specialized training and then be informed about specific contents in the Bear Forest. Sister Ju interrupted her explanation and asked Su Huan in the middle if he had ever heard of energy fruits. Surprised, Su Huan answered that he didn't know there were energy fruits in the Bear Forest. Sister Ju explained to him that, of course, the Bear Forest had energy fruits, and these fruits were a very consistent energy source that was regularly delivered to the main castle. Sister Ju then went to a wall and pulled apart two curtains to reveal a map. She asked Su Huan to take a look at the map and explained to him that it wasn't easy to access these energy fruits. She pointed to a small location on the map and explained that the energy fruits of this forest were also called bear fruits and grew on the bear fruit trees. Sister Ju informed Su Huan that these trees were guarded by extremely powerful bears. She also told him about a special badge that the base leader possessed. This badge allowed him to challenge one of the bears guarding the tree. With this badge, the bear would always accept a challenge, and if one managed to defeat it, they would receive one of the fruits as a reward. Sister Ju further explained that any tamer who would try to steal one of the fruits from the tree without challenging the bear first would be hunted by the other bears in the forest. Additionally, the tamers protecting the forest would also join the search for the thief. As Su Huan found himself in the forest, a loud roar echoed. Suddenly, his dragon was facing a fearsome Ursaluna, which stared at him with its big red eyes. Su Huan was on a tree, and next to him stood a man with purple hair who explained that it seemed like the bear had accepted the challenge from Su Huan's dragon. The man reiterated that as a reward, Su Huan would receive a bear fruit from a tree older than 30 years if he could defeat the bear. Su Huan took a deep breath, not thinking it would be so easy to conquer the bear, as it appeared to be extremely resilient and strong. The man with purple hair explained to Su Huan that a bear only accepts the challenge if it perceives the aura of its opponent as weaker than its own. He further explained that Su Huan would have to take certain risks if he wanted to obtain one of the fruits. The wild Ursaluna used roar and roared at the dragon with its red eyes to further intimidate it and weaken its attack. However, this attack had no effect on the dragon, which simply stood its ground and even laughed about it. This kind of mockery only made the wild Ursaluna angrier. Su Huan was surprised that his dragon was making fun of the Ursaluna and mocking it. He asked his companion if the bear had definitively accepted the challenge now. His comrade confirmed that after this mockery, the Ursaluna had naturally accepted the challenge. However, he pointed out that Su Huan's dragon had no experience in fighting a wild Ursaluna and noted that it wouldn't be as easy as the dragon had imagined. Suddenly, Su Huan's dragon and the wild Ursaluna charged towards each other, preparing to attack each other. As the dragon rushed towards the wild Ursaluna, it used threat, but even this seemed to have no effect. The two opponents closed in on each other until a physical confrontation occurred. At first, it seemed like both were evenly matched, but then the wild Ursaluna struck the dragon with a slashing attack and threw it back. But the wild Ursaluna didn't waste a second and attacked again. Su Huan's comrade noticed that things didn't look good for the dragon and was about to intervene when Su Huan told him to wait a little longer, as he had full confidence in his dragon and believed that it could handle it on its own. Su Huan believed that his dragon at least deserved a second chance. In response, his dragon became angry and once again confronted the Ursaluna. The wild Ursaluna stood before the dragon once more, launching another roar to disable it with another slashing attack. However, the dragon managed to escape. The dragon then surrounded one of its claws with a purple aura and soared high into the air. The wild Ursaluna observed the dragon, which then used Dark Claw and attacked the Ursaluna, inflicting damage. Traces of the attack and the dragon's claws were visible on the shoulder of the Ursaluna. Su Huan's comrade was amazed that the dragon had made a comeback and executed a combo of Quick Attack and Dark Claw. However, he recognized that such an attack combination was rare and wouldn't be enough to penetrate the defense of the wild Ursaluna. The dragon needed to become stronger if it wanted to obtain the reward in the form of the terrifying fruit. Su Huan had to admit that the defense of the wild Ursaluna was indeed very high, and it would be challenging to break through it. His comrade explained to him that the exaggerated defense of Ursaluna resulted from regularly consuming the fruits. He said that in the case of victory, the values of the dragon would also increase. Su Huan cheered on his dragon and jokingly called it a little lizard, which surprised the dragon and momentarily threw it off balance. In that moment of distraction, Ursaluna used recovery and healed the wound inflicted by the dragon. But just as quickly as the dragon was distracted, it was back in the fight and used Shadow Ball, hitting Ursaluna at point-blank range and pushing it back. The attack stirred up dust and pushed Ursaluna back. As the dust settled, the wild Ursaluna stood seemingly unharmed among the trees. It grabbed a dead tree trunk and lifted it over its head, throwing one tree trunk after another at the dragon. The dragon was initially taken aback but skillfully dodged the tree trunks. However, suddenly, the dragon realized that it was a trap. The wild Ursaluna had intentionally thrown the trees in a way that cut off the dragon's escape route. The dragon looked back and already knew that it was in a bad position. The wild Ursaluna stood up, grew larger, and roared once again with its blood-red eyes in front of the dragon, which was trapped in a dead end. Su Huan's comrade explained that Ursaluna used the move growth to naturally increase its size. It had initially made itself slightly smaller to deceive its opponent and only grew larger in specific situations. Panicked, he explained to Su Huan that not every Ursaluna possessed this ability, only the strongest specimens did. After using this ability, the Ursaluna's attack would greatly increase, as would its defense. He also told Su Huan that his dragon hadn't been able to defeat Ursaluna before and now had even less chance. He said it was time to abandon the challenge to spare the dragon. However, Su Huan explained that he hadn't received a distress signal from his partner yet and therefore didn't want to give up. He trusted his dragon. The dragon looked around anxiously, searching for an escape route, while the shadow of the Ursaluna continued to spread, darkening the surroundings. The wild Ursaluna once again used Slasher. This time with increased strength. However, the dragon was focused again and surrounded itself with a purple aura. It managed to dodge the intensified attack from Ursaluna and gained some distance by flying further. Yet, Su Huan's comrade still wasn't convinced by the dragon's performance and realized that the dragon's speed wouldn't be sufficient to shake off Ursaluna. Ursaluna chased after the dragon with quick attack and didn't let its prey escape. The dragon looked back and had an idea and a plan. It tapped its tail on the ground a few times to further provoke Ursaluna and charge at it. At the same time, it prepared an attack and used Stone Edge. The stone flew backward towards Ursaluna, hit it, and threw it off balance. Ursaluna fell and began to roll away. It rolled faster and faster. The dragon could hardly believe that its plan had worked, and a grin appeared on its face. As Ursaluna lay defeated on the ground before it, the dragon started laughing and rejoiced over the vanquished opponent. Su Huan's comrade also burst into laughter and couldn't believe how easily and in such a foolish way Ursaluna had been defeated. Su Huan was also delighted and said it was just luck but still enjoyed his dragon's victory. His comrade floated in the air while Su Huan hung from a branch. His comrade told him that he had forgotten that Su Huan currently didn't have enough energy to float in the air himself. So, he put 2 fingers in his mouth and let out a loud whistle through the forest to call his companion, a blood-tailed eagle. The eagle grabbed Su Huan by the shoulders and gently transported him to the ground. His comrade also had to acknowledge that Su Huan deserved to be called the pride of Master Zhou He, and after today's battle with Ursaluna, there was no doubt about it. He also raised his hand and had a ring where he could keep his beasts. The ring began to glow green, and his comrade summoned a Rosalia, a small plant-like creature. This species could heal other beasts and rooted itself in the ground to absorb nutrients. His comrade explained to Su Huan that after mastering the challenge and defeating an Ursaluna, it was customary to heal it, as otherwise, more Ursalunas would come and attack. Rosalia immediately set to work and healed Ursaluna with its abilities. Su Huan agreed that he was right and it should be common practice to heal Ursaluna, and he thanked his companions for taking care of this task for him. His comrade said it was nothing and that he was happy to do it. Ursaluna slowly opened its eyes, and the first thing it saw was the laughter of the dragon and Rosalia, who couldn't believe how easily Ursaluna had been defeated. In response, Ursaluna became angry and began to roar again. However, Su Huan's comrade stopped Ursaluna and explained that the challenge was over and if it fought again, it would have to give up another fruit. This surprised Ursaluna, and it turned around and walked away annoyed. Su Huan was puzzled and asked why Ursaluna was leaving so easily. His comrade told him to come along and he would understand. So, our group followed the wild Ursaluna through the forest until they arrived at a bush full of fruits. Ursaluna went to the bush and took one of the fruits in its jaws to drop it on the ground. The fruit was naturally covered in saliva. Su Huan's dragon looked disgusted at the fruit on the ground, while Ursaluna laughed triumphantly, obviously doing it on purpose to get back at the dragon for its defeat. Nevertheless, the dragon didn't want to miss the chance to have the delicious fruit that would make it stronger and still picked it up. While his dragon enjoyed carrying the fruit, Su Huan's comrade explained to him that Sister Ju had already told him that in many areas where Ursaluna resided, bushes grew that housed the fruits. Su Huan's dragon then spat the fruit into his hand, and he remarked that he had imagined it to be a bit larger. Su Huan asked his comrade how to properly use this fruit now, to which he explained that one could simply eat it. He also explained to Su Huan that once the fruit was harvested, it started to break down the nutrients it contained, and for the best effect, it should be eaten directly as there was no way to preserve it. Su Huan turned to his dragon and told it to quickly eat the fruit. However, his dragon wasn't quite thrilled with the slobbered fruit and couldn't help but recall how the wild Ursaluna had spat it out, leaving plenty of saliva stuck to it. Su Huan couldn't understand why the dragon refused to eat the fruit and offered it to him again, almost forcing it upon him. Still, the dragon didn't want to eat it and kept turning its head away from the fruit. Feeling frustrated and on the verge of tears, Su Huan realized that it wouldn't make sense to keep trying and that he needed to rinse the fruit with some water first. He asked his trainer if he happened to have some water with him. The trainer sarcastically replied that he shouldn't even consider cutting the fruit into small pieces to feed it to his dragon, making it more pleasant for him. He teased Su Huan about his dragon's stubbornness. Su Huan rinsed off the saliva sticking to the fruit under a small stream of water and then threw it to his dragon, telling him to eat it now. And the dragon did so immediately, catching the fruit mid-air with its mouth and devouring it. The trainer told him to get ready because once his dragon digested the fruit, it would start absorbing the fruit's power. Then, he suggested they continue their journey before wasting their valuable energy there. Su Huan was a bit confused and didn't know what his trainer meant by "get ready." He was also surprised when his trainer extended his hand forward, and his ring glowed red again. He summoned two more creatures, a Pyroar and an Arbok, both surrounded by a dangerous red aura. The trainer's Arbok was a fully grown beast of the normal danger class, while his Pyroar was in its perfect evolutionary stage and possessed a very high danger class. Su Huan's trainer instructed his two partners to be vigilant and defend the dragon in case anything happened to it. Su Huan watched the creatures as they took their positions and realized that it wouldn't be easy for his partner to absorb the energy from the fruit. He thanked his trainer for all his help, and the trainer replied that it was no problem and he was glad to do it. He explained again that the Bärenfrucht, bear fruits, couldn't be preserved. So it was crucial to consume them here in the dense and dangerous forest since it would usually be too late once they arrived at the camp with the fruit. While Pyroar and Arbok protected Su Huan's dragon, it lay in the middle of a clearing surrounded by a yellow magic circle on the ground. The dragon was in the process of absorbing the power of the fruit and couldn't move during this process, relying heavily on the protection of the two creatures. The trainer also advised Su Huan that if he didn't have other creatures to protect his dragon while it absorbed the fruit's power, it was always safest to find a hiding spot, like a tree hollow or a mountain cave, to take cover. He assured Su Huan that he would gain the necessary experience after going through this process a few more times. Su Huan's dragon slowly opened its eyes, and a tiny bead of sweat rolled down its head. Excitedly, Su Huan noticed that his dragon was gradually regaining consciousness and immediately informed his trainer about it. He explained to him that the mysterious energy of the fruits transformed the bodies of the creatures and their cells at an unconventional speed. He further clarified that this process always accompanies a stress reaction in the body. The fruits were known for their overwhelming effect. Su Huan's dragon slowly stood up, and one could see the first changes in its paws. Its claws became sharper and larger, and the scales on its lower legs started to break and renew themselves stronger and more robust. A few seconds later, as the dragon stood fully upright and stretched with full energy, it underwent a complete transformation, advancing to the next stage. Its yellow horns grew larger, its teeth sharper, and its entire appearance became more mature. And so, 13 more days passed since Su Huan's dragon had eaten one of the bear fruits. The forest still looked beautifully green, the weather remained excellent, and birds flew back and forth, chirping happily through the woods. During these 13 days, Su Huan's dragon grew at an incredibly rapid pace, reaching the limit of its current growth phase. The dragon's strength, stamina, and physical appearance were not weaker than at the end of the next growth phase. They might even surpass it. Since his dragon first entered the bear forest, it had already consumed 8 to 9 bear fruits. It seemed like Su Huan's dragon had a talent for provoking the bears, making them want to fight with him. The success in these challenges surprised and embarrassed Su Huan's trainer, Lin Zhen. In the last 13 days, Su Huan and his dragon had fought against a guardian of the bear fruits 20 times, with a success rate of 50%. Apart from the lucky encounter with the first wild Ursaluna, which the dragon had won with much luck, the reason for the high success rate was that the real hero creature, the treasure-seeking beast, had requested the battles. That was also the reason why Su Huan's trainer had only obtained one bear fruit in the past 10 days. While Su Huan managed to collect 8 pieces successfully. This was a secret that his trainer should not discover at the moment. Su Huan sat on his dragon, which wanted to communicate something and roared loudly to get his attention. He realized that his dragon was trying to tell him that it had been able to sense the bears since the first day. His dragon nodded, confirming that it had correctly understood and interpreted its roaring. Then they set off to find out why they suddenly could sense the bears again. Slowly and cautiously, without being detected, Su Huan moved a few leaves aside and tried to catch a glimpse of what was happening on the other side of the bush. Together with his dragon, which was not well hidden behind the bush and could easily be spotted, they observed the fight between the wild Ursaluna and a Lycanroc. The Lycanroc was in the process of biting the Ursaluna in the back and gaining the upper hand in the battle. Su Huan and his dragon watched the fight intently and realized that the Lycanroc belonged to a medium danger class. Moreover, Su Huan knew that this type of creature usually appeared in dark caves and mines, not in the bare forest they were currently in. Thus, he concluded that this creature must be a tamed one. Su Huan then noticed a man who extended his hand and also wore a ring that glowed red, just like his trainer's ring. He heard him saying that a regular Lycanroc wouldn't be enough, as he had initially thought, to defeat the Ursaluna. Therefore, he wanted to send a stronger Lycanroc into the battle, which, unlike its predecessor, not only had a simple armor but wore a heavy armor around its body. The unknown man in black clothing commanded his beast to kill the wild Ursaluna without mercy. Su Huan knew that a heavy armor Lycanroc was the evolution of the regular Lycanroc and that it was a creature that had no significant weaknesses and belonged to a strong beast of the special danger class. This class was comparable to a weak beast that belonged to the highest danger class. Furthermore, he recognized that the heavy armor Lycanroc was stronger than Sister Ju's flame tiger. As Su Huan could catch a slightly closer look, he also realized that this heavy armor Lycanroc was perfectly trained, cared for, and nourished. The heavy armor Lycanroc then charged and completely knocked away the wild Ursaluna with a powerful body check, hitting it with full effectiveness, causing it to fall into a small lake. Su Huan and his dragon were astonished that it was defeated so easily and were almost unable to stop marveling at it. He recalled something Brother Huang had told him. He explained that the Black Lantern had been active in the wilderness for hundreds of years, and during the city's development process, conflicts naturally arose with other hostile groups that were not pleased with the city's formation. This hostile group was said to be full of benders who used and controlled armored and heavily armored Lycanrocs as their main beasts. Su Huan also knew that this organization controlled a habitat where one could encounter such armored wolves, just as the Black Lantern controlled the habitat of the bears. However, the wolves' habitat was by no means as vast as the bear forest. Su Huan pondered why they would appear in the bear forest and realized that there could only be one reason for them to venture here: the energy fruits. However, he questioned how they would manage to preserve them successfully. He knew that even the Black Lantern had difficulties preserving the fruits and hadn't even succeeded in developing a method to make them last for a longer time successfully. The man in black disguise approached the tree where the coveted fruits hung. He wore a black mask and took out a small syringe, which he then inserted directly into one of the fruits, injecting an unknown orange liquid. Su Huan observed the spectacle curiously when he and his dragon suddenly spotted a flying beast above them and reflexively shouted that it was a creature whose task was to monitor and control the surroundings. The masked man had just finished injecting his unknown liquid into the fruits when he noticed the sudden cries of Su Huan and his dragon. He quickly stashed his syringe into one of the pockets on his belt and cursed that he never thought a rat would be hiding here. He told his heavily armored Lycanroc to check what was going on and jumped onto it, then together with his partner, he made his way through the forest to find out who was making such a commotion. A few minutes later, the two of them had caught up with Su Huan and his dragon, who were currently fleeing at full speed. While they were on the run, Su-Hwan had to contemplate the fact that this tamer was capable of taming a heavily armored Lycanroc belonging to a special danger class and entering the Bear Forest while concealing his identity. Su-Hwan concluded that his opponent must be a formidable adversary, and escaping from him wouldn't be easy. Su-Hwan realized his situation and reached into his pocket to pull out a small mobile communication device. He tried to call for help quickly, stating that it was an emergency and that he had discovered a poacher. He asked for assistance and urged them to hurry. Unfortunately, he found that his small communication device had no battery left, leaving him feeling somewhat desperate. Su-Hwan continued trying to flee. He knew it was his fault for staying in the forest for too long and being too careless due to the protection he enjoyed while on the master's business. Although things looked dire at the moment, he was determined to convey the information he had gathered and escape unharmed. Su-Hwan continued flying with his dragon and summoned his little treasure-seeking beast from the ring, which appeared on his shoulder with a golden aura. Despite flying at full speed, his masked pursuer managed to keep up and was still hot on their heels with his heavily armored wolf. The heavily armored wolf looked truly aggressive with its red eyes and sharp teeth. Its claws were pointed and powerful. The masked man commanded his Lycanroc to use Axelrock to catch the rat spying on them and kill both her and her beast. The heavily armored Lycanroc stopped briefly and gathered itself for a moment, only to then use Axelrock as ordered by its master, increasing its speed even further, and catching up to Su-Hwan and his dragon at an incredible pace. Su-Hwan and his partner noticed this and turned around. Su-Hwan also commanded his dragon to use Axelrock and run in a direction with many trees. Su-Hwan's dragon was eager, standing up, roaring loudly, spreading its wings, and getting ready to follow Su-Hwan's commands. Su-Hwan's dragon also increased its speed and ran as fast as it could through a narrow, small forest down a mountain. Su-Hwan hoped that his pursuer would continue to act as before, recklessly running through all the trees without considering the well-being of his partner and exhausting his stamina through such a thoughtless action. Additionally, Su-Hwan's plan was to make as much noise as possible to attract his trainer, Brother Lin Zhen. While Su-Hwan's dragon gracefully danced through the trees, avoiding them to maintain its speed, the heavily armored wolf of Su-Hwan's pursuer smashed or broke through the trees one after another. The masked man also realized that Su-Hwan was getting faster and about to escape. He raised his hand in the air and summoned another one of his beasts, which appeared from his blue glowing ring. His newly summoned beast was a light-type creature of the Tyr class, also belonging to a special danger class, a light tiger. Its fur was blue-white, and its appearance suggested that this beast was extremely fast. The masked man jumped from his heavily armored wolf onto his tiger and commanded it to chase after Su-Hwan and his dragon as well. Together with his heavily armored wolf, they set off to catch Su-Hwan, and their distance became increasingly smaller. When the opportunity presented itself, the masked man's tiger used the attack, Thunder Claw, leaping behind Su-Hwan and covering one of its claws with electricity, attempting to attack him. Su-Hwan turned around and realized the dire situation he was in. However, he and his dragon narrowly managed to dodge the tiger's attack and fly high into the air. Unfortunately, despite their evasion, the attack still grazed Su-Hwan's dragon, leaving a wound. As Su-Hwan's treasure-seeking beast on his shoulder showed fear, Su-Hwan also recognized the formidable nature of the beast he was facing. He touched his dragon's wound and realized that things couldn't continue this way, as they would keep getting injured even if they weren't captured. Suddenly, Su-Hwan had an idea. He commanded his small treasure-seeking beast to take them to the nearest leader territory of the Ursaluna. The treasure-seeking beast immediately set to work and focused. After gathering its senses for a few seconds, it pointed in a direction, giving Su-Hwan hope that he could find help there to defeat his pursuer. He quickly changed direction and followed the instructions of the treasure-seeking beast. While the small yellow treasure-seeking beast had trouble holding on at this speed, Su-Hwan commanded his dragon to not only run but, if possible, use Rock Slide and fire it backward to slow down the pursuers. His dragon understood the command, roared with determination. and slammed its tail on the ground to use rock slide. Several sharp stones rose from the ground and flew toward the pursuer. The pursuer commanded his heavily armored wolf to simply destroy the rock slides and run through them with its iron head attack. He reached out his hand, ordering his partner with the glowing red ring to follow his command, and it broke through all the rock slides with its iron head attack. Thus, Su Huan's pursuer could continue the pursuit without significant delay and without unnecessarily increasing their distance. His pursuer said that Su Huan shouldn't think he could escape, which Su Huan heard and turned to face him. The pursuer had to take a short pause with his tiger as he realized that Su Huan had indeed escaped. And he couldn't see him anymore. The masked man commanded his tiger to track him down again. The tiger sniffed around for a few seconds, and soon sweat beads were rolling down its body. It stood tall and growled loudly. The masked man asked his trembling tiger what was wrong and why it suddenly felt so scared. He looked ahead and realized, just like his tiger, that there was a dark cave in front of them with blood-red eyes gleaming. A sense of panic overcame Su Huan's pursuer as he wondered what creature lurked in the cave. Brown, large, powerful paws stomped out of the cave, revealing a massive, gigantic wild Ursaluna that let out a thunderous roar. The masked man recognized that it was an Ursaluna of the leader level. And his panic increased as the situation didn't look favorable for him. Quickly, he commanded his fearful, panicked tiger to flee while the wild leader-level Ursaluna already began to attack them. Meanwhile, Su Huan and his dragon had distanced themselves from the scene and had created a small gap between them and their pursuers. However, they could still hear the cries of their pursuers as they encountered the leader-level Ursaluna. Su Huan knew that a leader-level Ursaluna could call a group of other bears to attack poachers if they didn't possess a token from his master. Even if these poachers were strong, it would be practically impossible for them to face the entire bear forest as opponents. Su Huan commanded his dragon to return to the base and inform Senior Shuiyu about what had happened in the bear forest before it was too late and more fruits were stolen from the forest. His dragon used quick attack once again and quickly made its way back to the base to carry out Su Huan's plan. While they were already on their way, Su Huan noticed something flying towards them and just in time, he told his dragon to dodge the attack. The dragon barely managed to avoid the attack, which flew over them and landed on a tree branch. As Su Huan and his dragon stood on the branch and looked down, they realized that their pursuer had somehow caught up with them and attacked them from ambush. The masked pursuer said it was a shame that they had so much luck to evade the surprise attack. Su Huan looked exhausted, sweat running down his face, and he was surprised that they managed to catch up with them so quickly. The masked man explained that his light tiger had the mean look, which meant that no one could escape them. Even if they managed to fly several miles away, his tiger would always know exactly where they were. Su Huan was surprised that his tiger had a tracking move. His pursuer praised Su Huan for the relatively clever strategy he developed under the current circumstances and found his plan to lead him to a leader-level Ursaluna to be good so that it could take care of him. However, he pointed out that a tamer of his caliber could easily shake off such an Ursaluna. He, his tiger, and his heavily armored wolf stood under the tree where Su Huan and his tiger were, surrounding them. The pursuer told Su Huan that he was not like him, who only had a simple, weak dragon. Then, he ordered his tiger to attack and kill Su Huan. Suddenly, the tiger stopped in the air and didn't quite know what it was seeing. The form of Su Huan's dragon changed slightly and became larger and more mature before him. Su Huan had used his treasure-seeking beast's illusion ability to make his dragon appear like a weak dragon of the lowest danger level. Unfortunately, this ability didn't last very long and was beginning to fade. Nevertheless, the technique was very helpful and had done its job, buying enough time. Su Huan had previously made a smoke bomb from the remains of the Black Lantern, which he could conveniently use now. He took the smoke bomb in his hand, raised it high, and threw it as hard as he could onto the branch beneath him, causing a massive smoke explosion. His pursuer closed his eyes to protect himself from the smoke. Su Huan used this opportunity to flee once again with his dragon. He commanded his dragon to give it there all this time because it was the last chance to successfully escape. He had no more tricks left to make another attempt at escaping if his pursuer caught up with them again. His pursuer was starting to enjoy the chase and realized that Su Huan wouldn't give up so easily. However, he declared that he would do everything to catch Su Huan today and kill him, no matter what happened. He urged his tiger to use Volt Tackle to catch up and defeat them. Su Huan panicked when he noticed his pursuer was once again right behind him. He turned to his tiger and commanded it to attack Su Huan first and then his dragon. The masked man's tiger lunged at Su Huan again, its claws almost touching him. Suddenly, Su Huan's ring started to glow and activated the fire defense ability without him doing anything. A red shield appeared around him, which surprised Su Huan visibly. Thanks to this defense, Su Huan's pursuer and his partner were thrown backward without the opportunity to defend themselves. Su Huan cried tears of joy for being able to withstand the attack thanks to his master. He wondered why his master hadn't informed him about this ability of the ring. Although he wasn't killed by the attack, he almost died from fright. The masked man realized that the ability Su Huan had just used had been sealed in his ring. He also knew that this was not something ordinary, and only the best tamers of the highest danger level could seal such an ability in a ring. He explained that such rings were very rare among tamers, and he himself would possess such a rare ring with such an ability. Then he asked Su Huan who the hell he actually was. However, Su Huan didn't answer the question and completely ignored his pursuer. Instead, he told his dragon not to stand around foolishly but to continue on its way to the base. His pursuer was astonished that Su Huan still wanted to flee and hadn't given up running away from him. He said that he didn't care who Su Huan actually was and that he shouldn't think about passing on what he had seen in the forest today to anyone else. The masked man raised his hand again and summoned another of his beasts, with his ring glowing golden, and a lion appeared. It was a white lion with a large, fluffy mane, red eyes, and sharp teeth. Even Su Huan was surprised by how many beasts he still had at his disposal. His pursuer repeated himself and said that he didn't care who Su Huan's master was and that he would definitely kill him today. Suddenly, Su Huan's dragon stopped, and his pursuer asked if he had finally realized that he couldn't escape and had given up. Su Huan asked his dragon if it recognized the beast that had just landed on its hand, causing it to stop. Even the masked man recognized the beast as Lin Zhen's reconnaissance and surveillance beast, which then jumped off and hurried to support Su Huan. Brother Zhen immediately asked who dared to mess with his little brother Su Huan. The masked poacher, now sitting on the back of his white lion, asked Lin Zhen if he also dared to stand in his way and wanted to stop him. Brimming with confidence, Brother Zhen declared that he would not only stop him but even kill him. He also insulted him as the scum of Sin Fire Town, which angered the poacher greatly. Su Huan recognized the name Sin Fire Town and had heard of it before. The full name was Sin Fire Gathering Area. This place was a vast meeting point for tamers with a profound and remarkable history. It had always been the direct hostile competitor of the Black Lantern Castle. Unlike the Black Lantern Castle, the leader of the Sin Fire Gathering Area had no connection to the Bear Forest but a deep connection to a wolf leader. Therefore, Su Huan realized that it was no wonder their main beasts belonged to the wolf class. Su Huan's pursuer said to Brother Zhen that he was becoming more and more arrogant, and he didn't believe that he could live up to this arrogance or turn his words into actions. Angered, he summoned two more beasts and ordered them to rush directly towards Lin Zhen and Su Huan to attack them. He wanted to see how long they could hold on before they died and was curious about what lay behind this arrogant demeanor. His beasts ran at full speed towards Su Huan and Brother Zhen. However, Brother Zhen just laughed and remained unimpressed by the attacking beasts. He kept his arrogant manner and told the pursuer that he would find out if there was anything behind it once he defeated and killed him. Meanwhile, Brother Zhen summoned his beasts, including his Arbok, which easily defended against the attacking creatures, much to Lin Zhen's delight. Unfortunately, the heavily armored Lycanroc managed to break through the snake's defense and launched a direct attack on Lin Zhen. In complete panic, Su Huan called his brother's name, only to realize that a flame fist took care of the problem, hurling the heavily armored Lycanroc away with a simple attack. The flame fist belonged to a large Meramon, which was also one of Lin Zhen's beasts. The heavily armored Lycanroc fell to the ground, and the poacher was shocked at how quickly his partner was defeated. He couldn't believe it. Lin Zhen's Meramon stood beside him. Also a beast of the special danger class. It had 5 attributes: the grit attribute, the martial arts attribute, the heat attribute, the magic attribute, and the charm attribute. Su Huan was amazed when he realized that his elder brother Zhen had planned this from the beginning. He noticed that brother Zhen had summoned Meramon at the same time as Arbok but kept it hidden thanks to its magical stealth ability, preparing an ambush. Su Huan realized that these were probably the combat abilities of a tamed beast with 5 attributes. The heavily armored Lycanroc was still burning but prepared to counterattack, gathering a small amount of red energy before its mouth. The poacher, like Su Huan, was astonished that Lin Zhen possessed such a rare beast as Meramon, and he recognized that this was why he had acted so arrogantly. He also had to acknowledge that brother Zhen had hidden this beast very well, as the information-gathering agency of his Sinfire town had collected no information about him taming such a rare creature. Lin Zhen stated that they shouldn't expect to get that information from him because he would be killing them today. In response, the masked poacher said that Lin Zhen must be dreaming because even though Meramon might be strong and rare, it would only be able to defeat him in daydreams. His heavily armored Lycanroc was also in the same danger class as his Meramon and should be no less formidable. Therefore, it wouldn't be so easy to kill him. The masked man then ordered his beast to launch a surprise attack, and his wolf charged forward. Lycanroc opened its mouth, ready to attack Meramon, but Meramon effortlessly evaded the Lycanroc's attacks. It then ignited its fists and delivered several powerful counterattacks that sent the heavily armored Lycanroc flying back across the battlefield to where it came from. Su Huan was once again amazed at how strong brother Zhen was and widened his eyes as he watched the battle between Meramon and Lycanroc. Even the black poacher had to admit that Meramon had an impressive combat power, but he asked Lin Zhen if he thought it would be enough to seriously injure his heavily armored Lycanroc. He then commanded his Lycanroc to use Iron Defense to further increase its defense. Lin Zhen ordered Meramon to increase its attack, and it used Power-Up Punch, igniting its fist even more intensely with a much hotter flame. Both beasts ran towards each other, preparing to attack each other with full force. They got closer and closer. On one side was Meramon, striking with the force in its flame fist, and on the other side was the heavily armored Lycanroc, using its sharp claws to attack. When the two collided, there was a massive explosion. As the dust settled, Meramon remained unscathed, surrounded by its flames, while the heavily armored Lycanroc was severely injured and cowered fearfully before its tamer. The black poacher had to admit that he didn't expect Meramon to be able to use 2 types of abilities, and that's why it managed to inflict damage on his Lycanroc. He clenched his fist, and his ring started glowing red. He immediately summoned another beast, which was also in the special danger class, resembling a wolf like Meramon. It looked like a red Sandslash. Lin Zhen still held the upper hand and asked him if he thought that this Sandslash could compete with his Meramon and whether he believed they could defeat them. The poacher told him that he no longer intended to defeat them but only had to prevent them from escaping since people would come to defeat both of them. He pulled out a small communication device and stated that he had Lin Zhen with him, asking if anyone was interested in killing him.